Finals footy has come early tonight at the Adelaide Oval as the Crows and the Swans fight to keep their seasons alive. The equation is simple. If Adelaide loses, its dream of finals footy will be over, whilst a Sydney loss would see them out of the 8 at the conclusion of the round. Both sides have loaded up for the must-win clash. Isaac Rankin has returned for the Crows, while Sydney welcome back Braden Campbell and Dane Rampy. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you to call the action. Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco, your experts. There are no late changes for the Crows. Luke Pedler is their sub, and Ryan Clark the sub once again for the Swans. Crossy, good evening.
Aaron, you mentioned that word, final, or that phrase, finals footy. I tell you, we were supposed to have a couple of those already, weren't we? And it didn't seem to pan out that way. Like Brisbane comfortably, you'd say, beat Collingwood. And then this afternoon, the Giants and Essendon was supposed to be a knock 'em down, drag 'em out affair. It didn't quite evolve that way.
This is the unpredictable nature of the final two rounds, is you play ladder predictor and assume how things will play out, but you just never know when it comes to the AFL. And as a result, Adelaide winning tonight still won't essentially guarantee them a spot in the 8. They need to beat West Coast. And again, you just never know. The Eagles could turn up in the final round, and for the Swans as well. There's no easy beating for them. They've got to play Melbourne at home next weekend. So the 4 points are critical tonight for both these sides, considering so many teams are in that chasing pack heading into September. Jamo, welcome back to the box. Great to see you again after the bash. A little dishevelled, but ready to go.
Good evening, all. Good evening, Crossy. I've come in a little bit hot this afternoon after 7 days away with the Variety Bash. An incredible foundation and that supports sick children over here, and over 100 cars all around South Australia, 7 days, raised over $2 million. And I think it's been 35 years, and this is my first one. So what a great cause.
To paint the picture for those listening around the country,
yes,
magnificent, majestic beard you've got going on.
Oh, wow.
Bump on the top of your head from
yeah, I was a little bit late
car.
on putting my seatbelt on at one particular point on a dirt track, and so I've got some war wounds, and yeah, I'm not a camper, but I slept in a swag for 5 nights of it, and just trying to get in out of that sometimes, it was almost like wrestling a crocodile.
Thankfully, alongside you, Josh is fired up and ready to go. Welcome back to the box, Josh.
Thanks, Aaron. Good evening, everyone. And I think you summed it up in the opening, Aaron. It's basically must-win for both teams, isn't it? Adelaide, whatever happens outside of this game tonight is out of their control, but they've just got to get the 4 points. And as you said, likewise for the Swans, who I know, having spent 4 years as an assistant coach, really enjoy coming and playing at Adelaide Oval. So it should be a great contest.
Jamo, for you personally, we touched on it a little bit this morning on SA Grandstand. How important is playing finals footy to validate Adelaide's season? Because we've all seen the improvement. Clearly, they've taken a massive leap this year. But their best footy deserves to be in September. I think they've let a couple of opportunities slip, and realistically, they should be in the 8 right now.
4 games under 10 points they've lost, and out of the 11 games they have lost, they've lost 9 under 26 points. So that does validate that they've actually had a really good season. They've taken on top 4 teams and beaten them, and they've taken on top 4 and just lost to them as well, losing by 1 point and 2 points to Collingwood, lost by 4 points to Melbourne. So yes, the fact would be the unfortunate circumstances that Adelaide now find themselves in is that they need to win the next 2. They play Sydney. They do play well here at Adelaide Oval. Then they go to Perth next week and play West Coast Eagles. Now, everyone might think that's going to be an easy trip and where they are, and they should win and win well. But, if a couple of teams slip up along the line, there's every chance Adelaide could sneak into 8th position. If they could have won, they could be sitting 4th. They could be sitting 5th.
Is it a season where they rue those losses, do you think, or do they sit back and reflect and go, we're heading in the right track, the trajectory is where we want to go, we're heading north, but they must be, they'd be bitterly disappointed if they just miss.
And we've seen 2 games, certainly their round 1 game against GWS, they was 36 points up and they get rolled. And then, was it maybe round 9, they were in Darwin, took on Gold Coast and was 6 or 7 up and get rolled in the second half there too. So it's certainly been a season that you would say, albeit you haven't made finals at this point, 2 weeks to go, we'll find out, but it's certainly been a big tick, heading in the right direction. And I was just talking to Josh as well, it's all good for Adelaide at the moment, but what needs to happen now in the next 12 months is that Walker goes again, Sloan goes again, Smith and Laird are getting to the end. So you've got 4 really significant players and pillars that might come to an end in the next 12 months, and you've now got to replace them and find the talent to then put in their position. So Adelaide still aren't out of the woods, and that's why playing finals, to answer your question, would be huge for this team to experience it.
The time is almost now, isn't it? Like, they can sneak into the 8 this year and get some experience, and then 2024 is just a massive campaign. Looking ahead, as you mentioned, there's a couple of big names that are probably in their final season, and there'll be a couple of young guys that'll start to really hit their straps. So,
but this is just as significant for Sydney too, because for me, they've actually won 11, but they've lost 5 at home, I think it is, or they've lost 4 at home and drawn 1, which is really unusual for Sydney. That's such a hard ground to go up there and win against them. And I just feel they've struggled a little bit.
6 weeks ago, they were in the wilderness, Sydney, in terms of where they were sitting on the they didn't even look like winning a game, and they have been able to turn that around. But you're right, they're in the similar sort of predicament. They obviously made the grand final last year. And again, they'll be hell-bent on hopefully getting the 4 points tonight.
So won their last 5.
Yeah.
Bottom 4 at the end of round 17 and are now in the 8 as it stands.
Yep.
Interesting, you talk about those 4 guys. I think it was Walker, Sloane, Laird,
Smith.
and Smith. Where does Matt Crouch fit into that equation?
Well, again, too, like he's shown after a year and a half maybe that he hasn't been able to get in. He's had to go back and work on what he needs to. He's come in, whether he stays or whether now another team goes, hey, we might look to have a look at you.
Hey, Josh, just quickly from a Swans point of view as well, second worst team in the league for winning first possession at the coalface.
Yeah.
How badly does that impact their game plan right now? Because they've got some stars running through there, but clearly in the middle it's not clicking right now.
Having said that though, Aaron, they're number 3 at clearances. So the first possession off the ruck contest, they're not, whether that's a bit of or lack of connection from the mids with the ruckman that isn't quite working, or they're getting beaten in the scramble. But what they are good at is when the opposition gets possession of the footy, they do press and they do pressure the opposition to cause the turnover and get the clearance. So those numbers not so alarming, and probably not something that we haven't seen previously with Sydney. They've never really had a dominant ruckman. Hickey's a good, honest battler in terms of how he performs in the ruck, but traditionally they haven't been great at first possession, but normally their clearance numbers are pretty good.
Chance for the Crows to show their composure. First touch and get it out of the stoppage. Let's head downstairs as we are moments away from bounce down. Liz Walsh, the 5th member of our commentary team, is standing by. Liz.
Hello, Aaron, and thank you. And hello from a pretty chilly boundary down here where, of course, some light rain has just started to fall and I left my poncho back upstairs. But nothing's going to dampen the excitement for Adelaide's last home game of the season. The crowd's really starting to build. I'm going to guess over 50,000 tonight are going to be here, many of whom did get here early today to support the Crows women's team, who beat Geelong by 6 points in their pre-season hit-out. Good news continues for Adelaide. They have won the toss. They'll be kicking to the Southern Riverbank stand end. I'll quickly look to the benches for you for Adelaide. Murphy, Philthorpe, Sloane, Hinge start on the bench. Pedler goes in as the Crows tactical sub. Sydney, Stevens, Francis, Wicks and Fox start on the bench. Ryan Clark is their tactical sub.
A fair bit of aggression out in the middle early as well. Tom Papley getting stuck into Matt Crouch. There's a lot at stake here at the Adelaide Oval tonight. It's as close to an elimination final as you can get in round 23. Adelaide lose and they're done. Sydney have one more lifeline, but with the D's next weekend, they'd want to lock it away tonight. Quick tips, Josh Jammo?
Oh, tight, Adelaide at home.
Yeah.
Rossi?
I think Adelaide at home.
Yeah, I might go Adelaide as well. But that's a clean sweep, which is very concerning.
I reckon that was a guess. That's paper, rock, scissors.
Over at the Docklands, midway through the first term there, St Kilda lead Geelong by 18 points, 3-2, 20-2 behind. So we'll keep you up to date with that. If you do want to hear it, jump on the ABC Listen app and hit the AFL button. If you want to hear the Matildas, hit the Women's World Cup button on the Listen app. At the moment, the score is 2-0. Sweden's in front in the battle for third, so not looking great for the Tillies right now.
Just while we wait for the umpire to bounce the ball, a couple of matchups ahead of the ball for Adelaide. McCartan's gone to Walker, and Rampy's got the job on Fogarty.
Isaac Rankin in for Adelaide, a
Massive
big in. Dane Rampy also another big in for Sydney.
Yep.
So push and shove in the middle before the bounce is taken. And we've got Jordan Dawson, the former Swan, who's captain of Adelaide, has been a target. Hickey gets the first tap down. Matt Crouch with the first clearance. Out to Soligo by hand and then off to Laird inside 50. Comes off the pack. Taken by Rankin. Pushes away from a couple. Out to Schonberg. Then he got it to Fogarty outside 50. Scrubby kick inside 50. Ball went to Rochelle. Couldn't get control of it. Swans get it eventually. Papley with a little bit of calmness back to Wicks, clears the area.
High ball towards the square. Mills battling with Dawson, goes to ground. Matt Crouch picks it up and shovels a handball back towards Keane, who flung it out in the tackle, holding the ball.
And Callum Mills has not left Jordan Dawson alone. He's just bumped into him, so that'll be the matchup for tonight.
Free kick to Isaac Heaney for the Swans. No score so far. On the 45, he heads to the Logo broadcast side. McLean got front position on Millerer, and the mark is paid, albeit it was slapped away before he hit the ground. McLean sends the Swans inside 50. His target is McDonald. O'Brien was there. Second juggle, he couldn't pull it down. McDonald. Papley bursts away though. Caught in the ball ace tackle. Can't get a good connection. Rolls to the scoreboard pocket. Picked up by the Crows. Handball wasn't clean to Keys. He's slapping it forward. Just fighting against a couple. Gets it out of the arc, but Mills is waiting. Hands it off to Warner. Lowers the eyes and spots his ruckman, Tom Hickey. Straight in front. 45 out.
It's a hot football too. Adelaide all possessions. 9 of them pretty much when they were the early part of that first quarter, but now Sydney have got it into their 50 and the pressure was good.
So Tom Hickey, 2 behinds for the year. Contract year for the journeyman as well. We often say rucks can't kick. He crosses the paint of 50. Looks to prove them wrong, but he pulls it wide right. Very shallow as well, and it just carries over the behind line in the end. So the first score of the night, a minor score. Sydney's way, took 2 minutes to get there.
So it'll be Brodie Smith at the top of the goal square defensively for Adelaide. Brings it in, comes to this broadcast side with a long kick, and Rampy reads it best and earliest and takes the mark. Left half forward for the Swans. Looks inside 50 with his left boot, sends it 25 from goal. Ball aced in well, got to the front, punched it away. Ball came to Crown for Adelaide, and Laird was across there and the ball went over the line. That time Laird and Campbell just having a little bit of a shove match. Ball will come in around 30 around from the goal face.
Good crowd in tonight. Saturday night football at the Adelaide Oval. Toss back in. McLean battling with O'Brien. The ladder wins out but taps it straight to the boundary line, and we'll try again. Closer towards the arc this time, about 48 out, left forward pocket.
Just looking at a matchup at this stoppage, talk about Michael Annie, who's so versatile as a defender for the Crows. He can stand tall, but at the moment he's on Papley, who's a very dangerous forward for the Swans.
Poor third term last week against Charlie Cameron. He'd love to erase as well. Off the ruck tap, Schongberg tries to keep it in. Slaps it closer towards the broadcast wing, but again it rolls over the paint.
Congratulations, Shane McAdam too, 50 games.
Nick Blakey, also the milestone man for the Swans. Racks up 100 tonight.
Hasn't he had a big year?
Toss back in. Let's see if third time's the charm. Hickey gets the tap. It goes over the back of his head in the end, and Papley's brought down without it by Michael Annie. Free kick forward to the Logo. Papley, low, drilling ball into the 50, straight to Dawson in the hole. Intercept mark for the Crows.
Had the opportunity to spread the ball, and he decided to do that. Worrell in the scoreboard pocket now, goes long on the eastern side. Walker from behind, couldn't quite pull it down. Michael Annie was there, picked it up on the ground. Inside hand pass, found Keys, tried to find Walker. Turned it over, not quite. Picked up by Laird now, and he's slung in a tackle by Rowbottom. And the ball up will take place inside the centre square, out on that eastern side, and just ahead of centre for Adelaide.
O'Brien charges in, bounces off Hickey, who wins it down for the Swans. Charging in head first. Good pick up from Michael Annie. Got it to Rochelle, now Laird. Tackled as he kicked it. It trickles just wide of Walker. Picked up by Rankin, who shrugs too. Kicks a tumbling footy into the arc. Fogarty's charging out to meet it. Rampy's on his tail. Got a handball clear straight to Gordon. Saligo gets him. Kicks it clear only as far as Dawson. The skipper from 50. Jordan Dawson kicks it across the face for a minor score. One behind apiece, 4.5 into the opening term.
And obviously Rankin coming back into the side, Gemmo, already looking lively for the Crows up forward.
Yeah, just busting through backs. He came in from a hamstring. Hasn't missed a beat.
Blakey brings the ball in and goes for a little bit of a run, drops it short for Lloyd. Still inside defensive 50 for the Swans. Helicopter kick down the line. It went over the back of the pack, and there's an opportunity. Parker gave a hand pass inside for McDonald, running hard, the big man inside 50. Swans had plenty back there. One of them was Hayward, takes the mark and then squares the ball straight away. McLean takes the mark 20 metres out, straight in front.
Got to say, I wasn't looking ahead of the ball for the Swans, but I reckon when they took that first connect inside forward 50, it was a 4v2, so I don't know what happened to the Adelaide defenders, but They looked all at sea.
I think
Plenty of loose targets inside their forward 50, the Sydney Swans.
And even here down in front of us, the one that Luke Parker actually took a punt, went over the back, and then Michael Annie's come off his man and didn't have enough time to actually get there, created some free plays.
So McLean, who was signed with South Adelaide here and never quite got there because of being picked up by the Swans, and now he's kicked the first of the evening for Sydney. So 1-1-7 for Sydney. Adelaide just the one behind after 5 minutes. It's been an enthralling contest already, and that little bit of drizzle isn't helping the players.
No, we're just looking at some of the key stats. We've only played, as you said, 5 minutes, Crossy, but the inside 50 is currently Sydney 5-3. Probably the area where they've been really good. Sydney, you've talked about it's a hot footy, is the tackle count, currently 6-2. So that's +4 in favour of the Swans.
Over at the Docklands, St Kilda by 19 over Geelong, 4-3-27 to 1-2-8. Two teams in that pack chasing for the final few spots. What's said to be an enthralling final fortnight of this season.
Big game for Geelong.
Hickey and O'Brien in the middle, awkward bounce, favoured the Swan, just exited the circle, but the whistle stays away. Papley gets it off the tap, spun in the tackle, a tumbling footy found Saligo on the outer wing, gives it off to Smith for the Crows. Long ball, just launched towards the arc. Fogarty! What a sit! He's taken out Walker and just couldn't quite hold on to it in the process. Falls into the footy and is wrapped up by a couple. Massive airtime, and holding the ball in the end will go Sydney's way. Gee, it was an excellent highlight, but it just couldn't quite cap it off with the polish. Here come the Swans on the counter.
Rampy gave it off to Lloyd. Down the line he went with a kick on the eastern side. Francis sliding in, taking the mark. So just behind centre wing. Looks down to half forward. Forced to kick that long ball. Ball ace, middle of the pack, punched it, went up in the air, came back down on the ground. Was Smith, got a hand pass out, but it's all scrubby football. Francis came in, was tackled straight away. Ball caught on the ground and under him now. I think Michael Annie picked it up. He was surrounded as well, and the umpire said, give it to me, just outside attacking 50 for the Swans.
Quick ball up. Trying to shark it was Saligo. Overran the footy in the end under some pressure. Picked up by Laird. His kick smothered by Parker. Ricochets back to the Swans co-captain. Chips it into the 50. Charging out is Worrell, and he's sandwiched by a couple of tacklers. Ball up to come. 40 out. 45-degree angle to the right. Papley lively early. He's got 4 touches for the Swans. Brodie Smith, Jake Saligo, Rory Laird with 3 for the Crows. Off the ruck contest, Parker just got boot to ball. Trickles towards Saligo. Hands it out to Rochelle, left half back for the Crows. Unsure what to do with it and ends up selling Saligo into immediate danger. Coughed it up. Back inside the arc for the Swans. McDonald pushed out of it by ball ace.
How good, hey?
The young man in his first couple of games has been so impressive. Adelaide now on the switch across defensive 50.
Game number 3, strong key defender.
Hinge with the mark to Worrell, and he plays on, stabs down the line. Dawson leads up, takes it away from Mills. Still at half back on this broadcast side. Switch is available, but he's opted to go down the line and high. Hickey sitting under the ball. Walker was there, and he was just disposed of by McCartan, who took a strong mark. It's his brother deciding, because of concussion syndrome, that he was going to retire this week as Swans go back down the line. Still on this broadcast side. McDonald gets it, pumps it forward.
Bit wide of Francis, picked up by the Crows as Hinge sends it back where it came from. Bit of an errant kick, bit too heavy in the end. Didn't favour Rankin, and Cunningham takes the intercept. Left half back for the Swans. Kicking to the left of your radio dial at the moment, Sydney.
Disposal efficiency was only at 55%. Adelaide, when they get hold of the football, Sydney's is up around 77. So a big area of improvement already in the early part, which is the pressure that Sydney apply.
Short pass to Fox, who flirted with the boundary line. It was quite wide, but he found Stevens legally, said the boundary umpire. Up towards the arc. Hickey's outnumbered, has to fist from behind. Rolls towards the boundary line. Hayward's happy to have scored it over. It'll be tossed back in. Left half forward for Sydney, just outside the arc. They currently lead by 6 points, early stages of the opening term.
12 tackles to 5 in favour of Sydney.
And looking at the rain as well, just heavy enough to make it annoying and make it really slippery for the players.
Should have been an Adelaide free kick in there. Yes, it'll come back. Murphy was the player who just falling forward got taken high. Adelaide cleared the ball through Thilthorpe, but no advantage. So Murphy at right half back, right at the point of the square. just looks, and again, the switch is on, so he goes back deep to Borlase, who takes the mark 25 from goal. He goes straight to the corridor to Millerer, and Millerer flares to the eastern side to Keane, just outside attacking 50. They didn't do that quickly enough, Adelaide. Keane's going to be forced to kick down the line to a pack now. Pulled the kick pretty well, going back with a flight and taking the mark was Crouch. Gave the hand pass off to Michael Annie straight away. Inside forward 50, Philthorpe. Too big, too strong, got rid of his man. Blakey couldn't go with him for height, and Philthorpe has the mark 30 metres out, virtually straight in front.
That was superb play there from Adelaide. Really methodical in their back half. The kick from Keane to find Crouch, I think that was intentional. Outstanding kick. And they were able to generate that speed on the ball with their hands and find that target inside forward 50. Probably textbook Crows ball movement and forward entry.
Riley Philthorpe in with a kick, and it's poor. Out to the right, minus score. And brought in quickly by Blakey as Adelaide trails by 5 points. The Swans are on to centre wing very quickly, but it's intercepted there by Hinge.
Hinge looks to square it up. Smith's in the square, pulled it in with one arm away from Rowbottom, spears it into the arc and hits the leading McAdam in game number 50. He takes it, 35 out, 45-degree angle to the right.
Again, that risk v reward, isn't it, for that lateral kick back into the corridor. Hinge, centimetre perfect in the end. And once again, a beautiful connect. And I'll tell you what, the more I see of this McAdam, the more I like him. We obviously know the talent he's got, but he leads up aggressively at the ball and he does attack the footy hard. He's definitely a live wire ahead of the ball for the Crows.
He's had a goal in every game he's played this season. 11-4 for the year. Crosses the paint of 50. Poor shot. Dead straight, but didn't quite get the angle. It sits up on the behind line. Walker takes it in the pack, sends it back to Crouch. Beautiful vision. Turned in the left forward pocket. And saw the best and fairest winner. 25 out. Slight angle to the left.
I think he was keen to snap it, wasn't he, too? He went one way and the other. He wanted it. Just sitting second on the Coleman medal. Charlie Kerner kicked another 5 today, so he's now 10 ahead. Not that that would be his priority, but kicked it to his good mate, Matt Crouch.
What a revelation he's been. Back into the squad after injury and form. Matt Crouch, short approach. Beautiful finish. Adelaide up by a point. 1-2-8, plays 1-1-7. 13 minutes into the opening term on Grandstand AFL. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
I tell you what, Josh got it right just before when he said this rain must be really annoying. It is really annoying. It's almost like it's raining, but it's not really raining, and now it's getting much heavier, and you just can't help but think down here that it's starting to impact the game.
That kick, as you highlighted too, Mitch Hinge, he's grabbed that. Brodie Smith grabbed it one hand. There were 4 Sydney players around him. If that was spilt, they're away. And then his deadly low kick into McAdam. No defender has a chance.
Well, they missed one right, they missed one left. Crouch was good enough to finish, but again, can't be understated how good a play that was from Tex Walker there. Just his ability to find Crouch under immense pressure.
Ball thrown up in the middle. Sydney will come away through Papley. Parker with the slick hands, inside 50, off hands, taken by Hayward, across the body from the scoreboard pocket. Contest between McDonald and Borlase gets over the back. McDonald goes to get it again. It's remaining on the ground. I think he accidentally kicked it. Rowbottom picked it up, gave it to Goulden. Snap from the boundary, squared it up. Lots of numbers straight out in front of goal. Campbell will run after it, flick the hand pass to Papley. Now from the scoreboard pocket, Borlase does the work again. Punches it through for the rush behind. And Adelaide now with the scores level. Had to double check that for a moment. The scoreboard was a bit slow. 1-2-8 apiece, and we've gone through 14 minutes in the opening term.
As you said, Papley missed the goal, but I'd like to see him at least kick one tonight because we know how good his celebrations are.
Had 6 earlier in the year against Richmond as part of gather round here. Long exit from Hinge, up to right half back. O'Brien trying to soccer it forward. Picked up by Stevens, the South Australian. Gave it to Parker. He's caught. Dropped the footy. Whistle stays away. Could have gone either way with the arm over the shoulder from Saligo. In the meantime, ripped out by Florent. He left it behind in the tackle. It's messy in the wet right now. Bar of soap. Everyone's battling for it as it pinballs around. Saligo's taken high. And finally some normalcy. Free kick to the Crows. close to the boundary line.
You could see in that scramble, they were both trying to get the ball forward, but the pressure was too good. They just couldn't get their kick away.
Saligo low and hard down the line. Didn't quite favour O'Brien, who was his target. And it's cut off by Cunningham, who sends us to Goulden, defensive edge of the square. Goulden, who was tagged for half of the game last week and didn't have an impact. And when they let it go, the Swans really got going. Kicks it to Florent, now low towards Heaney. Sport away late from him. Ricochets to Hayward, sends it in the direction of Francis, gets it on the second bye. Sticking a hand in, Keane turns his back on Francis, who kicks it up towards Heaney. Did he claim it? Late surge from Millerer, and he smashed it over the boundary line. It'll be a boundary throw-in. Keane will be disappointed he turned his back there instead of standing the mark, but they get away with it.
Luke Pedler is Adelaide's sub. Mitch Hinch he's got his right knee heavily strapped and struggling just to walk, let alone jog.
Ball thrown in. O'Brien with a nice tap down. And Murphy cleared the area only to the chest of Rampy for Sydney. So he's at right half back, or right half forward, I should say. Inside 50 with the left foot. Keane dropped it. Heaney picked it up. Hand passed out quickly. And Wicks with a snap. And it's just inside the goalpost. Sydney get the lead back. Nice snap from Wicks. Not too many Swans fans here, I can deduce from the reaction of the crowd. Sydney move along 2-2-14. Adelaide 1-2-8 after 17 minutes on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Well, Sydney have started the game well, Jamo, haven't they? We look at their indicators in terms of statistics. The tackle count, they're +5. The contested possessions, they're +4. And the inside 50s, where they're starting to hurt Adelaide, they're +5. For 2 goals, 2, and Adelaide's just 1 goal, 2. And in conditions like this, you talk about field position, it becomes absolutely critical because if it's deep in your forward line, it's hard for the opposition to exit the ball with any sort of clean ball movement. And again, on that occasion, the repeat entry builds the pressure, creates the shot on goal. Good start from Sydney.
And they're covering the ground too. 40 kicks to 15 handballs in these conditions. Adelaide 30 kicks to 17 handballs. So Sydney's started very well.
Swans by 6 in the middle. McLean won the tap. Got a little 1-2 with Rowbottom. Kicked from Parker, smothered. Ricochets towards half forward for the Crows. Rankin charges through the Campbell tackle. Wide now to Murphy. Sends it into the left forward pocket. Thilthorpe flew, but Fox read it best. Nice fist over the boundary line. Left forward pocket for the Crows. 15 out.
And you talk about guys that are diamonds in these conditions. Rankin, those one-touch players become absolutely critical for you.
So, boundary umpire pauses, sends the ball in, and Walker got rid of McLean, who came back and then took the ball on the ground. They flip it through a couple of hands, eventually to Rowbottom, clears the area, going back with Schonberg for Adelaide, inside the centre square, takes possession, kick to half forward was good. McAdam with the lead up though, still outside 50, takes the mark, now sends it 25 from goal. Thilthorpe will come late, couldn't get hands on the ball. Fell away for Warner, then a hand pass found Parker. Parker went to ground, held in there, and the umpire says, no, Lockie Murphy, you can't have a free kick. Ball up, 20 out.
Really very lucky, Sydney. They've been clean. One handball just up in the air. Parker fell to his feet.
Ball up. Slapped down by McLean, straight to Crouch, gives it to Murphy, snaps 35 out. It'll sit up in the goal square rather. And McCartan got underneath it and has received the free kick. He hands it off to Lloyd. Short exit. Campbell, right back pocket for the Swans. They lead by 6 at the moment. Campbell called to play on. Launches it. Massive rocket up towards the outer side. High, long. Worrell gets a fist in the pack. Head over the footy. McDonald can't quite reel it in. O'Brien tries to pick it up. He's brought down by Parker. McDonald goes again. And just to get a kick straight into the smother of Hinge. Ricochets to Crouch. Here come the Crows. Although Smith fumbles. Manages to snap quickly off a step. Big double fist from McCartan, who takes out McAdam on the lead. Spilled towards the arc. Thilthorpe hands it to Crouch. Straight into a gang tackle. And we'll get a ball up. Centre half forward for Adelaide.
Tough footy at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Just bodies flying everywhere. McAdam has gone into McCartan. McCartan just taking the deep ones.
So the ball and ruck contest comes to ground. Matt Crouch on hands and knees after it. They're all down and dirty at the moment. No clean possession. Crouch finally just flips a hand pass over his head. Finds only Florent from the Swans. Clears off the left foot towards centre wing on this broadcast side. There was Worrell, thought he was manhandled, umpire called play on. Foot to the ball from McDonald, got it down to half forward for the Swans. It's inside 50 now, ball on the ground again. Hayward, clean hands, picked it up, slid the ball under the arms and straight through for a goal. What a brilliant finish. Former Adelaide boy, Will Hayward, getting the third of the night for the Swans. 3-2-20 plays Adelaide 1-2-8 after 20 minutes of the opening quarter.
Coming up on his 150th. He's just quick, though, too. When he was out here, Adelaide tried Schoenberg had it, and he just shut down the distance. And I think Adelaide, Mitch Hinge tried to come inside, didn't he, too? Overstepped the mark. Isaac Heaney has come flying in. Didn't need a whole lot of room.
And even going back to the contest on the wing, McDonald, obviously understanding the conditions, just socketed the ball forward, gained about 10 or 15 metres, which then set up the forward entry, which Sydney capitalised on. So McDonald, really smart play. And once again, no doubt John Longmire will be telling his players to knock the ball on, surge the ball on, get field position.
Swans by 12. The Saints are up by the same margin at the Docklands. Second term underway there. O'Brien wins it down to Laird. Kicked it straight into Crouch, who gave it back to him. Launches a torpedo into the arc. It's balled away by McCartan. He's been great in defence so far this opening term. And it rolls towards the boundary line. 25 out, right forward pocket, Riverbank stand end. Adelaide's attacking 50 and currently trail by 2 goals.
Isaac Rankin with the 3. Harry Cunningham, his immediate opponent, 3 also. Just so explosive in the first couple of yards.
O'Brien just belted the ball forward. Fogarty took it. Hand pass back to Thilthorpe. Off a step, send it into the pocket. It's going to bounce just inside the line and out in the left forward pocket for the Crows. McAdam was perhaps the closest, but he was tied up by Fox. And so we'll get a throw in right beside the behind post.
Toss back in. Hickey charges out. O'Brien gets there late, slaps it down towards Fogarty. Caught in the tackle, hands it to Dawson. Slipped out of his hands in the wet. Laird was there with the assist. Ripped it away. Snaps from 30. It'll sit up on the behind line. And through for a minor score on the right-hand side. 1-3-9 the Crows. The Swans 3-2-20. Time on in the opening term on Grandstand AFL. And again, Sydney with the quick exit straight up the spine.
And they've got Warner running, and he just gets a kick away before he's taken down in a tackle, but they've got it to the front end of the square. It's picked up by Blakey, or rather Mills. Wasn't a great hand pass. He goes back in again. Laird had him. Hand pass came out there from O'Brien. Gee, it was good. Found Miller, a forward hand pass to Rochelle. Poor kick to half forward. Lloyd intercepted for the Swans. Got it away to Campbell, and then they work it through the hands. And Blakey out wide was good vision. On this wing, they've got Hayward. He takes the mark, decides to play on. Settles himself and just boots it high to half forward.
McLean trying to get a run at it, but Keane kept him out. Knocked to ground by O'Brien. Rowbottom charging, taken without it. Holding free kick to go the Swans' way. Rowbottom saw red, charged towards the footy. And the Crows panicked. Free kick for Sydney, straight in front, 45 out. A chance to make it 3 goals. Rowbottom will hand it off. Loading up, Campbell from 50. Massive kick. Excellent finish. Campbell's on the board. The Swans are up by 17. 4-2-26. Adelaide 1-3-9. 24 minutes into the opening term. Your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Probably 2 things that stood out in that passage of play there for the Sydney Swans. McLean, his ability to bring the ball to ground in that marking contest with Rory O'Brien. Riley O'Brien, beg your pardon. But then also Matthew Nixon, the coaching staff at Adelaide, they would be so angry in terms of that ability to handball that off from that set play to Campbell to then go and finish the goal. They do their homework. They identify, no doubt, that he's one of those players that can do that and penetrate the game by foot. Just a lapse in concentration there from the Crows.
James Rowbottom is such a star for this side. His ability to win the football and get in. Adelaide were probably stiff. He came through, dismantled it well through the tackle and then slung him, which highlighted it.
Swans will come out of the middle again through Goulden at the front. Drives it in forward 50. McLean got rid of his man. Got Warner flanking him. Picks it up. Hand passes to Warner. Immediately claimed in a tackle. Forced to release it. McLean got it back. Sent it into the forward pocket. And it's out beside the behind post. Right in front of that old scoreboard. Doesn't look a treat for Adelaide just at the moment. 25 minutes into the opening quarter.
The rain seems to have eased, if not died off. We'll check in with Liz in a moment.
5-2, freeze in favour of Sydney.
Toss back in, O'Brien. Big sprint, double tap down. Straight to Wicks, though. Caught in the Sloan tackle, goes to ground. Almost fell into him forward. Could have been a free kick, but the Crows get away with it. Tossed up, Swans attacking 50. O'Brien again wins it down. Then Sockers it centrally. Only finds Francis, who hands it off. The snap from 15 is a miss on the left-hand side. Goulden had a go. Couldn't quite convert. Sydney moved to 4-3-27. Adelaide 1-3-9. 26 minutes into the opening term. Over at the Docklands, still a 2-goal game. St Kilda lead Geelong there.
Talk about stars of the game. Errol Goulden, when he gets hold of the football, uses it so well.
Miller goes in long. Speaking of doing well, it was a quick hand pass out that found Rochelle, and Adelaide goes forward through McAdam. Inside forward 50, trying to get to the ball was Keys. He was blocked. Blakey took the intercept mark, immediately flares out to the eastern pocket, and Lloyd is there waiting.
Bit lucky there, Sydney, I thought. Keys blocking off the ball.
Lloyd keeps his kick low, turns it over. Smith with the intercept at half forward, I should say, for Adelaide, out on the eastern flank.
Smith heads into the left forward pocket. Kick favoured Walker, just spoiled off his chest late. Could have taken it straight out if he bite it in the end. McAdam now becomes the tackler. Dives in, umpire circles, ball up to come. They're going to right in the Riverbank stand.
I reckon they've got every right with that as well.
Absolutely.
He pulled that back in under his body. That's holding the ball every day of the week.
Cunningham getting away with one. Tossed up, Hickey wins it down straight to Cunningham, who gets the exit.
They've just seen the replay.
Errant kick up out of the arc, straight down the corridor. Miller a fumble, Packley charging out to meet it, bounces off Worrell, who stood his ground in the end. Almost knocked over by Dawson in the end. Sydney keep forcing it forward, but Keane is sitting back as the last line. Hands it to Saligo. Turns, kicks across the boundary line. He's trying to get it to Rochelle. Just did enough as it bounces over the paint for a boundary throw-in. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Yeah, Mitch Hinge has just been in the hands of the physio. He's got some blood that's just being mopped up on that knee that's really heavily strapped. I'll keep an eye on him.
Sydney have been incredible in this first quarter, just guarding ground, haven't they? Every time you look, it's like 2-on-1. Every contest.
O'Brien with a great tap down, found Laird, but his kick was smothered towards the boundary. Goulden did well, kept it in with a hand pass. And Robbie Fox received and then walked over the line under the attention of McAdam. So that rain seems to have stopped. Liz Walsh, that's a bit of a blessing for you.
I can confirm, Neil, it's stopped raining. Hallelujah.
Ball comes back into play, comes down to the front. Stevens, not preferred right foot, tumbles the ball 30, 40 metres down the line. Worrell comes across and is escorted over the line by McLean for another throw-in.
Gemma, you mentioned the job of Mills on Dawson. Doing a fantastic job. Yeah. Dawson just the 4 disposals to this point in the quarter.
18-point lead to the Swans. Hickey trying to reel it in off the boundary throw-in. Laird busting through, wrapped up by Goulden, dropped the footy. Saligo dives in with Sloan. The former skipper wins out. Gets a kick down the wing on broadcast side. Fogarty launches, can't reel it in, then runs with a big shirt front as he bounces off. Gee, that was a heavy hit on poor Stevens, and here come the Crows. Miller a low kick, straight towards Rampy. It's a poor entry.
Well, I think, again, it just highlights how good Sydney are. They anticipate, and the ground, if the kick is not spot on, it's not going to make your opponent or your teammate or either.
Swans tried to go for the quick counter, but have run out of time as the ball was held up at centre half forward. 18 points the margin at the first break. Sydney certainly up for the fight, and Adelaide with their season on the line need to find some grit in the wet here at the Adelaide Oval. 4-3-27 plays 1-3-9. Goal scorers at the first change, all individual for the Swans: McLean, Hayward, Wicks and Campbell. For the Crows, their only goal coming through Matt Crouch. Over at the Docklands, St Kilda lead Geelong by 7 points. Early stages of the second term there, 4-4-28 to 3-3-21. And it is full time. The match for third in the Women's World Cup went the way of Sweden. They defeated the Matildas 2-0. So the Aussies finished fourth in the Women's World Cup. Great to have you with us tonight in a game with plenty on the line on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
We need to go now.
You're not kicking me out of my own home, Arthur.
Denise Scott and Matt O'Kine.
It's an assisted living village, Mum.
In a shiny new comedy.
We're at a goat farm.
Mother and son.
You haven't even mentioned my new mode.
It's hideous.
Cheeky, provocative,
What will we do now?
and proves love is relative.
Looks like it's just you and me, Mum.
Believe me, Arthur,
Mother and Son
that's more than enough.
starts 8:30 Wednesday night on ABC TV and ABC iView.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Hinge looks to square it up. Smith's in the square, pulled it in with one arm away from Rowbottom, spears it into the arc and hits the leading McAdam in game number 50. He's had a goal in every game he's played this season. 11-4 for the year. Crosses the paint of 50. Poor shot. Dead straight, but didn't quite get the angle. It sits up on the behind line. Walker takes it in the pack, sends it back to Crouch. 25 out. Slight angle to the left. After injury and form, Matt Crouch, short approach. Beautiful finish.
Keane dropped it. Heaney picked it up. Hand passed out quickly. And Wicks with a snap. And it's just inside the goalpost. Sydney get the lead back. Nice snap from Wicks. Foot to the ball for McDonald. Got it down to half forward for the Swans. It's inside 50 now. Ball on the ground again. Hayward, clean hands. Picked it up. Slid the ball under the arms. And straight through for a goal.
Free kick for Sydney, straight in front. 45 out. Chance to make it 3 goals. Rowbottom will hand it off. Loading up, Campbell from 50, massive kick. Excellent finish. Campbell's on the board.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Well, we anticipated virtually an elimination final, and we're certainly seeing finals like football out there tonight. It's tough, it's gritty, it's contested. And the Swans have the early advantage. They're up by 18 points over the Adelaide Crows, 4-3-27, plays 1-3-9. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you to call the action. To break down the opening term, your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Frank.
Well, I probably need to clarify what I was saying. When Wayne Miller comes through the middle there, Sydney are so good at defending and covering off space. If the kick isn't, they just be able to, if it's off a little bit, the defence and the way they just cover the defence, and I felt that was outstanding tonight. Once they were able to do that, their efficiency with the football was clearly well better than Adelaide's in the first part. Adelaide started to get it back in the second half. At one point it was 5-10 inside 50s and then 11 all, and now it's at 13 apiece. And this is against the best number one side. When it goes scores inside 50, Adelaide are the number one team. So again, I'm just highlighting how good Sydney have been. But certainly at Hayward and Goulden for me already, with their ability and how skillful they are to use the football, they've been able to get it over the top and look really dangerous, kicking 4 goals in that first quarter.
And even going back to that kick from Miller, there's a time and a place, particularly with the conditions as they are, the ball's slippery, and also looking ahead of the ball for Adelaide, who've got, Rochelle and Rankin and those types of guys, almost, scrap that cute little one that you're trying to hit just outside the forward 50, get it in there. And again, in that particular play, they had momentum. Get it in there, let the little small forwards from the Adelaide Footy Club go to work, lock it in there and create the opportunities on top of that, rather than trying to be too cute going inside forward 50.
It's incredible seeing the Swans live. They do love to score from turnover. They can move the footy so efficiently, and they actually move almost in this giant zone. It's a big bubble of Swans players, and they all run together until they finally get that turnover and completely break. The cardio is immense.
And that's probably been the addition of Don Pike. Again, having spent 4 years at Sydney under John Longmire, there was a heavy focus in defence. If you look at the spectrum, as I said, very, very heavily weighted in defence. Didn't talk a lot about ball movement, but that's probably been the introduction of Don Pike and the influence that he's had. Clearly, when he was coaching the Crows, their ball movement was as good as there was in the competition. So he's added that dynamic to them. They still defend well, and you talk about they do zone and they do cover defensively behind the ball superbly, particularly, again, with the inclusion of Dane Rampy in this side this evening. But they defend well, but when they get it, probably the biggest change from when I was at Sydney is their ability to come back through the corridor and get speed on the ball, entries, and their efficiency going forward of centre.
We've seen, in terms of tagging-wise, Jamo, Jordan Dawson obviously received a fair bit of attention from Callum Mills. On the other end, Errol Goulden's got 7 in the opening quarter. Ben Keys could possibly be an option if they want to try and limit him, considering Rankin's now playing in the forward line.
Well, I think he I don't know if he's directly tagging, but I certainly watched Rory Sloane try to go with Errol Goulden in a contest down here, and Errol Goulden just took off. Again, Rory Sloane has been a star of the game, and we're talking about a 21-year-old versus a 31-year-old. But he just blew him away with his ability to just get to the next contest. He didn't receive it, but then he just uses the football so well. He's the number one disposal player in this Sydney side. So Adelaide need to restrict him and just can't allow him to get hold of the football. Tell you who also has been good is Hayden McLean and Logan McDonald.
The big fellas have been good. Yeah.
Considering there's no Amadi in this side tonight, and obviously no Franklin now, they're standing up and showing the future's pretty bright down there for the Swans. They're up by 18 points. 4-3-27 plays 1-3-9. Win or die for the Crows tonight. Hickey wins it down for the Swans. Papley with the crumb, caught in a lead tackle, manages to get the handball back to Rowbottom. Long ball inside 50, top of the goal square, 2-on-2. McLean thinks he's held. Meanwhile, Heaney keeps fighting for it, breaks through a couple. Centres his kick, only carries about 2 metres. Miller was underneath it and then spots Saligo. Nice short pass to the right back pocket. And now Adelaide look to switch.
Saligo brings it to the broadcast side to Smith, able to play on straight away towards centre wing. Running back with a flight was Schonberg, didn't get the greatest of bounce. Blake, he came, knocked it away. Now on the ground, Hinge went in. Ultimately, came back with a hand pass from McAdam. He gave it to Smith, tried a hand pass, blocked by Rowbottom. Swans so good. Gave it to McLean, inside 50 again, coming to meet at Worrell for Adelaide. Couldn't get the kick away, or he did just. Touched it off the boot and over the boundary line, short of being on the full. Good result for Adelaide, but it's still at right half forward for the Swans, attacking that River Torrens end of the ground in this second quarter.
Well, just that little patch then just highlighted Sydney defence and how the pressure they applied. Adelaide weren't clean, and Sydney now keep it closer inside 50.
O'Brien wins it down. It bounces through Crouch, and Laird dives in with Rowbottom on top of him, one of the best tacklers in the game, or two of the best tacklers in the game, head-to-head at the moment. Second ball up, misses both ruckman. There's a holding free kick that will go Sydney's way. Tom Hickey allegedly kept out of it. So he'll send it into the arc for the Swans. Charging out. Hayward gets a launch. Unable to take the mark is Parker. Managed to trickle a kick through towards the top of the goal square. McDonald wrapped up in a couple. Ball up to come straight in front. 10 out.
Adelaide got away with that clearly. No defender went with him.
Oh, Heaney off the ruck contest with a great snap off the left foot. Wait on the goal umpire. I think it's there. It is. It came down, and at pace, Heaney met it. Got the left foot to the ball high, and it went through. So the Swans get an early one in the second term. 5-3-33. Adelaide 1-3-9. It's getting a dangerous margin for the Crows 2 minutes into the second term.
Well, that was just your classic sort of small/medium forward goal, wasn't it? Starting the defensive side of the stoppage, just timed his run, Heaney, superbly. Took it cleanly off the ruck tap. Was able to get his boot to it to kick a really important goal for Sydney, just to maintain that momentum. And the other thing as well, just looking from a statistics point of view, probably almost got to beg the question now, Jordan Dawson not having an influence, do they get him out of the centre, get some fresh legs, or get someone else in there that can have an impact and put him somewhere else where he can start influencing the game?
Game high, 24-point margin. Hickey down the throat of Warner. Another clearance coming for the Swans. He tucks the footy under his arm, drills it into the arc. A little bit too hard in the end for Heaney. Hinge there, gave it to Miller. He's in a lot of trouble and drops the footy holding the ball.
Because I reckon the other thing that's hurting Adelaide, particularly in the centre bounce, we saw it the first one to start this second quarter, is the speed at ground level. So Dawson's been taken out of it by Mills. You've got Matt Crouch, who isn't blessed with great leg speed, and you've got the likes of Papley and those guys that are electric and dynamic at getting on that loose ball.
Chad Warner on that occasion.
They're just cutting Adelaide up when the ball hits the ground.
So Heaney handed the footy out of the Swan sandwich. Man on the mark. 35 out, slight angle to the left. Heaney comes in, kicks dead straight. Back-to-back goals for the Swans at the hands of Isaac Heaney. And the margin blows out to 30 points. 6-3-39, plays 1-3-9. 4 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL. Liz Walsh downstairs.
When Heaney took the ball just then, Matthew Nix, who coaches from the bench for the Crows, he just put his head in his hands, only for a second, but you could tell the disappointment.
Sorry, Gemma, it's one of those things as well. I just said the margin is starting to get away from them, and they've got to do something in terms of that midfield mix to start to get some momentum and get first possession, because as I said, at the moment, that loose ball, they've got the speed to get on it, and at the moment, cutting the Crows up.
Well, usual suspects are back in there for the Swans. They've got Warner and Papley, two men we mentioned. It's come down to Crouch, though, for Adelaide. Slipped the hand past to Laird. Centre break for Adelaide. Walker, the target, brings it to the front. Went past Rankin, who made a good tackle then on Mills, trying to get rid of it. And he's taken down, and the umpire says, ball it up. Centre half forward for Adelaide. Going to that northern end of the oval and trailing by 30 points.
The Swans have the last 5 goals either side of quarter time. O'Brien wins it down. Dawson charging through, gets it to Murphy. Now Crouch off a step, curls it into the arc. There wasn't really a lot ahead of him. Picked up, nice smooth grab by Campbell, but the handball to Lloyd, a little poor, trickles to the boundary line and just escorts it over under a bit of pressure. So boundary throw in, tight right forward pocket. Adelaide's attacking 50. It's the second time it's been in there this term. Toss back in. Walker front position, wins it down. Hickey disposes of him though with some body work. Coming through, Cunningham left it behind. Caught in the tackle. Goulden drops it. Play continues. Crouch dives in. Ball up to come. 25 out. Right forward pocket.
That's almost a classic case. You've got a hold of the football, you go to kick it, it doesn't hit your foot and you get tackled. That is clearly incorrect disposal and it should have been a free to Adelaide.
Florent went to ground that time in Walker's tackle. Adelaide keep it inside 50. From the pocket, produced something special, did Rankin. The problem was he was just out of bounds as he kicked it. He had kicked the ball through the goals, but it's been recalled. We'll get a throw in.
Unbelievable.
Has he kept it in?
Jeremy Cameron was allowed to do it. Why can't Isaac Rankin?
So scoreboard pocket, ball comes in again. Walker goes to the front. Good tap down to Keys. Hand pass out to Dawson. Pushes off. Gets it on the left foot.
Superb.
Good pass. Schonberg has it. 45 from goal. Just slightly to the left. And there's a swan down behind play too.
Well, that was superb from Dawson, wasn't it? Just the composure. Gave the don't argue. And then found the spare Adelaide played inside their forward 50 in Schonberg.
Cunningham, the player, being attended to by a trainer over in the scoreboard pocket. Meanwhile, Schonberg, in he comes. Big kick in this match. And he's done well. He's got it there. Adelaide hit back just as they needed to. The Crows 2-3-15. Sydney 6-3-39. 7 minutes down in this second term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, Jordan Dawson's had the 2 disposals now, but his ability to be able to run up, he's getting help from his teammates now just to create some space. And then I think just the frustration maybe in the first quarter of not having a whole lot of impact on the football. And up the other end too, when that contest happened, I think it was Worrell who should have been standing Isaac Heaney. Mills actually protect, and then that's when he's come through, and then you end up with Jordan Dawson on him. So not only is he trying to defend at one end, he's actually trying to get his team as the skipper back into this game.
Saints by 13 at the Docklands heading into half-time. Here it is Sydney by 24 points. Stilthorpe in the ruck wins it down. Dawson again charging onto the footy. Mills was on his tail. He's wrapped up by Parker as well. Ball up to come just outside the circle. Bit of afters as well between the two skippers, Dawson and Parker. Tossed up, Thilthorpe slaps it towards the 50. Saligo was there under pressure, hands it off to Schonberg. He's trying to shake Stevens, just can't get it away. Hands it up and Dawson smacks it towards the boundary line. Just trying to kill the footy, and Sloan will help get it over. Boundary throw in to come behind left half forward for Adelaide. They're trailing by 24 points in the second term.
Well, I guess it's one of those things as well. Mills is normally a big possession winner when he's allowed to run loose. He's only had 1 disposal, so potentially Adelaide are just happy with that 0 draw at the moment.
Runner out to Dawson. I think there's a positional change there. He might go back as the ball comes back into play and goes over the boundary line near the interchange gates. We'll get a throw in.
Well, it just makes the coaches of Sydney now, John Longmire's got to make a move. Do you want Cullen Mills playing as a half forward as Dawson sits behind the football? And then a hinge goes up to the contest.
And that's what Josh Dacos does so well. He's tagged, he goes forward, he goes wing, he goes back. I don't mind it though from Adelaide.
Toss back in. Thilthorpe again slaps it down. Doing well on the ruck. A little bit wide though of Sloane. Sockered forward by Schomburg. Walker charging out. Gathers at his bootlaces. Turns. Hooks it into the arc. McAdam chasing with Keys. 2 on 2. Trickles towards the left forward pocket. Fogarty charges in. Under pressure from Rampy. He's tackled over the boundary line. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Meanwhile, that annoying rain has started up again, which is disappointing for everyone.
I think Liz has a poncho down there. So the ball thrown in. Walker goes against Hickey. Gets it to the front of the pack. Picked up by McCartan. Sloane had him straight away. Took him over the boundary line, as you were.
I just wore a poncho for a week. I was a Mexican for a week as part of the Variety Bash.
I got the photos. You look like you enjoyed yourself.
You would not want to be wearing the one I just wore for a week, though, Liz.
Toss back in. Hickey wins it down. Trickles towards Cunningham. He's wrestling with Crouch. Busting through his Schomburg. Put it in the path of Keys. He went to Soccer and Rampy bowled him over. Here's the exit for Sydney. A spiralling footy towards Francis. Keys behind, knocked it down to Saligo. Centres it towards Walker, but he's caught behind. And a nice intercept mark taken for the Swans in defensive 50. Warner has it and has some time to compose himself with the Swans up by 24 points. I say that, but his kick is horrendous. Put poor Heaney under immense pressure. Bowled over. Keys couldn't gather. The Swans get away with it as they race to the outer wing.
Now they've got the pace of Heaney, or rather Papley out there. He takes it just inside the boundary, looks inside. Wicks ran for him. He got the mark just outside 50, plays on. Inside 50 goes. He was looking for Francis. All he found was Dawson. So Dawson moved to half-back, intercepts. Wide he goes. Rochelle made a chest mark look hard. Turned it over. It's come to the Swans. There was a high tackle there on Stevens. Rochelle hasn't been in the game and had an opportunity to do something basic there. Just couldn't get it done. Stevens will send the Swans inside 50.
He just had to sit under the football, didn't he? He has struggled in the last couple of weeks, Josh Rochelle.
The Norwood product sends it into the arc, off hands, Papley, swarms, tumbles it towards goal. Excellent finish. Tom Papley, ever the opportunist. Sydney back up by 5 goals. 7-3-45, plays 2-3-15. 11 minutes into the second term on Grandstand AFL. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Keep an eye on Isaac Heaney. He's running a bit, just not looking 100% out there. A trainer's just run out to him. He said, no, I'm going to stay on, but he's definitely not 100%.
Well, I think McCartan was limping in the first. Well, he got hit hard. Lloyd is struggling, I think. He's limping too. Harry Cunningham caught one in the early part of the second quarter, so very physical.
And just on Tom Papley as well, again, having spent some time up there, I was there when he originally got drafted. He was rookie listed originally, missed the draft, and he's an absolute superstar. You can't give him any time and space, particularly when the ball's in the scramble or off hands in a crumbing situation. And again, on that occasion, just outstanding. A little bit disappointed in his celebration, though. Normally he gets a bit crazy than what he did then.
He was picked up as a rookie.
Yep.
Back in 2015, out of the middle, Adelaide through Laird, long to the goal face, comes down. Thilthorpe had it, lost it as he got his hands free. He lost it and was about to pick it up and slam it through.
I reckon that's tough.
Well, that's the same thing that actually just happened only 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So it was a hand pass and then an outlet to Stevens, which had come from Blakey. So Stevens is out near the boundary line, just on 50 on the eastern side.
Long ball up towards the logo. Pack awaits. Francis front position, couldn't control it. Sloane front and square, got it to Saligo, then Keys. Back to Sloane, it bounced off him. And now the long ball exit. Up down the wing from Stevens. A little bit long. Went over the head of Hayward and Worrell. Worrell picks it up and is drilled over the boundary line. Heavy hit. And a free kick will go his way. He'll receive it at right half back in front of the Foss Williams stand. The youngster Josh Worrell, what a year he's had. 22 years of age. Averaging 15 touches a game. Blasts it back where it came from. O'Brien presents. Just slipped through his fingertips at the back. Blakey in game 100. Darting and weaving through traffic. May have been caught by Thilthorpe. Gets a handball out late. Here come the Swans. Adelaide thought they'd had it and were all charging forward. Goulden trying to capitalise. Sends it to the arc. On the bounce. Picked up by Hayward. Snaps towards goal. And misses out on the full. Just carried through the air. Little floater. And out on the right-hand side. Free kick to the Crows. They currently trail by 30 points 7-3-45 to 2-3-15.
What Sydney also do well is they do force you to kick down the line. They cover the switch, they cover the corridor, and they bring it into the contest long down the line, which plays into Sydney's hands currently.
Speaking of which, Michael Annie to take the kick from the out on the full free kick, and he's forced to go down the line. Comes off the pack, over the back. Rochelle picked it up, just flipped it over his head forward for Adelaide. They've got it towards centre wing, or high tackle by Dawson. Coming in low and hard was Goulden. He's got the free kick.
So Errol Goulden, if they had a Most Improved award, he'd win it this year.
He'd probably win their best and fairest.
On the 45, nice kick inside to Mills. Sends it back inside the arc. Rising up was Francis at the back. The volley out of the air, though, by McDonald. Gee, he was plucky, but he couldn't finish it off. Minor score on the right-hand side. 7-4-46 plays 2-3-15. And the predominantly Crows crowd is getting restless at the Adelaide Oval. They're wet, they're miserable, their season's on the line, and it's fading away from them fast.
So halfway through the second quarter, Hinge comes to this side with a kick, the broadcast side, off the hands. Phil Thorpe was the target, and about 60 from the goal face. The ball will be thrown in.
Speed is a problem for Adelaide, the way Sydney are around the ground. They're using it way better. When Adelaide do get hold of the football, they're getting to them really quickly, so unable to use it. And then when they have got it, they're not even hitting their targets.
Goulden pinged here for holding on to Laird.
This is the kick here. They can't just go boring along down the line. They've got to somehow manufacture a 45 or look to switch.
Laird forced to go down the line in the end. Phil Thorpe will come. O'Brien just knocked it down. Picked up, and Hinge was the man right on the logo. Picks it up, surrenders it to the umpire after he's tackled, and we'll get a ball up.
Might send you down to the bench with Nixie, Josh, and pass on a few words of wisdom. Off the ruck contest, Goulden charges through. Managed to get it back towards Campbell. Off a step, high ball towards the centre circle. McAdam with the fist from behind. Spilled down, head over the footy. A couple of tackles laid here to hold things up as Dawson gets involved and holds up Hayward.
Well, I think there's a couple of things to that point. Weather conditions is one, because you don't want to hit it into the middle. They're worried that they can't hit the kick, and Sydney have actually shown already how they are getting to the opponents with the way they're setting up.
O'Brien taps it straight to Rowbottom. He lost it in the Sloane tackle. Very late whistle, and it's going their way. High contact to Campbell. When Rowbottom had just dropped the pill, Campbell heads it up to left half forward. Bounced off the shins of Stevens, who was pushed by Schomburg. Oh, they're going to burn the house down, the Crows fans. It is not going their way tonight. Free kick, Sydney.
I thought that one was there.
It's 7-2 in this second quarter.
Stevens into the left forward pocket. McDonald presenting, cleared him at the back. Rankin on the goal line, running out of room. Hands it to Keys. Now Saligo just kicks for territory. Only Lloyd awaits.
Picks it up, goes wide with his kick. It'll slide off the turf and over the boundary line. He had two to aim at, and he got neither. So the ball just inside 50 for the Swans. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Oh, this drizzly rain really seems to be settling in now. It's almost funny. If someone could send down a poncho, that'd be great. Jamo, I'll even take your dirty, stinky one from the variety
bash.
bash.
Not even want to hand that over to you.
Ball comes back into play. And O'Brien got the tap. McLean picked up the crumb, lost it in a tackle. Rankin, who's around the ball, gave it off to Sloane. Down to centre wing it's come. Over the back again. And again it'll be a Swans free kick, this time for in the back. It'll be, well, it was going to be McCartan, now it'll be Florent. So Florent to send the Swans forward again. They have a 31-point lead as we close in on time on in the second term.
Into the arc, it cleared the pack. Everyone flew, and sitting back was Hinged down on the ground. Handed off to Borlase, but he wasn't really ready for it. Busting in, trying to use the body of Saligo. Left the footy behind though. Hayward's brought down. Now just outside the arc. Centre half forward for the Swans. Rowbottom somehow got it to Goulden, who volleys towards the left forward pocket. Keane juggling, but couldn't control it. Papley rips it away. Shrugs the tackle. Wants to send it, but Keane kept fighting. And a nice smother on the boundary line. Bit of afters as well as he puts down Papley.
Oh, Papley just took a big
He took
dive.
a big dive, didn't he?
Watch this.
He's playing with fire, though.
He's certainly milked that. Boundary throw in, 25 out, left forward pocket in the wet. It is Sydney by 31 points.
In it comes again. O'Brien with a tap down. Cunningham with his hand pass out. Found O'Brien. O'Brien was slung to ground, picked up by Rowbottom. He's tackled straight away by Rankin. So Adelaide looking for pace. Have gone for Rankin around the ball. But they just can't get it forward at this stage. They're really hemmed in their own half. And now defensive 50. Ball goes up again. Down it comes to Laird. Ducks around, gets a kick outside the 50. Cunningham comes across, takes it towards the boundary line. Throw in out there on the eastern flank.
Well, Crossy, the other thing as well, looking behind the ball for Sydney, they've currently got +2 behind the footy. So Adelaide's forwards need to reset ahead of the ball, because if they hack it out of there under pressure, it's just going to go straight to Sydney and come back with interest.
The voice of Josh Franco, Rod Jamieson, your experts. Toss back in. Riley O'Brien, the double tap towards the boundary line. Carries straight over. Swans were pleading for deliberate. They'll get another boundary throw in front of the Foss Williams stand.
Well, Adelaide are just trying to congest it too, aren't they, and get numbers around the football to do it, but they have to support each other and come wide as opposed to going directly down as to what they've been doing. And Sydney just set up as they did first quarter and part of this second.
Half-time at the Docklands. St Kilda lead by 16. Slapped down by McLean. Does his own roving as well. Hands it to Mills. Snapping into the arc. Coming back. Borlase put it down. Busting through Heaney, can't control it. Wicks manages to flick one backwards to Packley. He tried to charge through and lost the footy up against Sloane. Hinge now, drills it through the corridor. Didn't favour Walker. Coming out McLean, knocked it towards Lloyd. Back into the arc. Worrell, big fly, falls backwards and lands into the pack. Thankfully as a safety net. Spills out. Francis from 30, darts through traffic, kicks towards goal. It's floating across the face and takes a bounce close to the boundary line right forward pocket. It'll be tossed back in, Riverbank stand end. Sydney's attacking 50, 31 points the margin, time on in the second.
And just hemmed inside their D50 at the moment, the Adelaide Footy Club, aren't they? Inside 50s this quarter, 14-5, so +9 in favour of the Swans. It's been played in their front half.
Incredible physical game. There's still 7.5 minutes to go and players almost like they're out for the count.
O'Brien takes it off the ruck contest. Forward head pass to Rankin, then back he went to Saligo. Down the line he goes. It falls over the back. McCartan couldn't take it. Picked it up now under pressure from Rochelle. He did well. Got it over the boundary line. Adelaide can reset further down the ground. Their problem has been getting forward from these situations.
Big interchange by both clubs.
Gordon with 5 for the quarter. Saligo with 6. Toss back in. O'Brien entangled with McLean. Won it down the Crows' ruckman to Laird, but he left it behind. Picked up by Rowbottom. Crouch's kick smothered. Campbell tried to get it back to Rowbottom. He couldn't control it. Laird can't keep it in. Another boundary throw in to come.
Well, both sides are really strong in that ground ball area, the contested football. We spoke about that pre-game. Just the congestion at the moment and the pressure from both sides made this second quarter a little bit sloppy.
Just repeating the final score in Brisbane as well. The match for third in the Women's World Cup went Sweden's way, 2-0 over the Matildas. Toss back in. O'Brien gets the double tap, but charging through. Warner read it best. Check side entry into the arc. Floating back late. Worrell got a fist, or did he? Francis claims the mark. Got a second bite falling into the footy, and the umpire has paid it. So Francis will have a set shot. 45-degree angle to the right. 35 metres out. Adelaide certainly had the outnumber, but big Aaron Francis read it best.
Well, they had the outnumber as well, because Sydney are bringing a couple of forwards up to the stoppage, which meant Adelaide were able to drop one back behind the footy. And Francis had no right to take that mark. It was a 2v1, terrific mark. Just needs to go back and finish.
The West Adelaide product crosses the paint of 50. Dead straight kick. And he loves it as well. Another goal for the Swans. They're up by a game-high 37 points. 8-4-52, plays 2-3-15. 22 minutes into the second term. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Taylor Walker's actually just been in the hands of the doctors. He's come from the ground. It seems to be having some problems potentially with his chest, sort of around his left shoulder. So the doctor's taken a good look at him.
Well, you look at the margin now, Jamo, it's starting to get away from Adelaide, isn't it? Sydney are playing a really contested, impressive brand of footy. It's played in their front half at the moment. They've got to somehow find the deadlock, whereas this centre bounce becomes absolutely critical for the Crows. They've got to do whatever they can to win this, get it in, get field position, get territory, and then hopefully lock it in their front half.
And one of the more difficult things too, they've kicked 8 Sydney, 7 goal scorers, with Isaac Heaney got 2 in this quarter.
First possession out of the middle again to the Swans. Got to half forward, Warner had it, and then Wicks picked it up. He was tackled by Miller. Miller out on the eastern side of the square, sends it even wider to Sloane, picks it up on the half volley, down to half forward. Ball towards the boundary and eventually over. Just on Aaron Francis, picked up from Essendon, basically as a intercept defender, has been thrown forward. That's his first goal of the season. 1-4 he's got this season.
First goal was a Swan. Very exciting. Toss back into play. O'Brien wins it down. Straight to Rochelle. Couldn't control it. Not really urgent to charge into the footy. And now Sydney get the exit. Warner up the outer wing. Underneath it, McLean. Couldn't control the chest mark. Bounces out. Michael Annie gives it off towards Keane. Up to right half forward. Bounces a little wayward of O'Brien. Keys just fists it into the arc, but sitting back is Blakey, and the Lizard arches the back and races up towards the square. Gives it off to Florent. Kicks through the logo broadcast side. Rising up, Heaney couldn't control it and then bowls over Worrell to try and control the footy. He'll get the handball back, Heaney, as the whistle stays away. Sends it to the top of the goal square. McLean launched late, unrealistic in the end. Spilled through him to Sloane. Gets it to Michael Annie, who shanks it out on the full. He panicked trying to exit, and in the end, Sydney will be handed a set shot from the tight angle 10 out.
And you talk about the margin on the scoreboard. Any wonder, looking at contested possessions, it's 42-25 this quarter, so plus 17 Sydney's way. The ground ball gets plus 14 Sydney's way, so they're absolutely dominating in the stoppage. They're dominating when the ball's loose on the ground through speed and their ability to get first look at it.
There's only one man who could make this work for the Swans. It's Tom Papley, who opens the angle, curls it on the left, just didn't quite get the right trajectory. And it's a minor score on the left-hand side. Sydney 8-5-53 plays Adelaide's 2-3-15. Still plenty of time in this second term as the margin pushes out to 38 points. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Some good news for the Crows fans down here. Taylor Walker was given a really good looking over by the doctor, and he seems fine and should be ready to come back on soon.
Miller went long from the kick-off inside the centre square, intercepted by Hickey, and then he went to Rampy, who went back with his hand pass, and now Adelaide get an intercept at half-back. On the merry-go-round there was Crouch, gave it out to Laird, and he went off to Rochelle. Logo on centre wing, mark taken by Murphy. Had a hand pass wide, looked around, decided no. Now he chips it wider. And the mark there by Miller between centre wing and half forward. Adelaide just unable to move the ball with any precision.
2 really easy chest marks are overhead, and Josh Rochelle's really struggling to get hold of the football. He just looks like he is struggling.
He was the sub last week, omitted before that. Crouch has the footy, sends it into the arc. O'Brien crunched. A couple of Swans coming out to meet him. Stevens there to Crum. Nice kick as he exits out towards Francis. Then gets it back, but he's running straight into a wall. Warner met by Keane. Rowbottom there, kicks towards the arc. Wicks now, over the back is McLean. All he has to do is spot him. Kick lingered a little too long. Good diving effort to stop it there from Hinge, but it went straight back to McLean, who finishes from 20 out. Sydney have all the answers, and Adelaide's season in serious jeopardy now. The margin, 44 points. 9-5-59 plays 2-3-15 as we close in on half-time on Grandstand AFL.
Well, 5 goals, 2 to Sydney in this quarter alone. Adelaide just the one. 17-7 inside 50 Sydney's way. It's only been a number of weeks ago where you talk about Mark Keane, James Borlase, Josh Worrell, Michael Annie. These guys are the youthfulness and the cohesion they have because they've been playing a lot of SANFL football, but you can see the cracks at such a young backline too. They're put under enormous pressure at the moment, and Sydney are really hurting.
Ball back in the middle. After the ruck contest, Dawson picked it up, gave it to Laird, then a flick to Schonberg. Goes down to centre half forward. Walker going back. Surely was attacked front on. Yes, said the umpire. And so it will be a free kick for Walker. 40 out straight in front.
Understatement, but big kick this one. Jamo from Tex. Normally a beautiful set shot for goal. Hasn't had a huge influence on the game thus far, but needs to go back and finish.
Only the one disposal in this second quarter. And everyone talks about if you're not winning the football, it's the defensive work, isn't it, too?
Yeah.
So Adelaide need to change the way. Sydney are really strong at the football.
Walker coming off a 19-possession, 2-goal game against Brisbane. In he comes, strikes it beautifully. Never in doubt. Walker has a goal for Adelaide. Margin under 40 points. It's back to 38. Adelaide still with a huge task in front of it. 3-3-21. Sydney 9-5-59 as we close in on half-time. 29.5 down.
And yeah, and as we said, a really important finish there from Tex. They've had momentum against them for basically all of this second quarter, but a terrific finish. But even just some of the things I've written down here, just to sum up how this quarter's unfold. Adelaide have lost contest, they've lost ground ball, they've lost field position. And as a result, they've been outscored heavily on the scoreboard. They've lost field position, as we said, and the ball has been kept inside the Sydney Swans forward half. But again, against the flow and against momentum, Taylor Walker finishes with a terrific goal.
Hit-outs 33-15 in favour of Adelaide, but clearances overall 22-20 in favour of Sydney.
In the middle, Adelaide get the exit, led back towards Smith, off a step, kicks in hope really up to the arc, and racing out 100-metre sprint style. Blakey grabs it on the chest off the bounce, gave it to Hickey, then Stevens, curls it up to left half forward for the Swans. Miller wrestling with Hayward and forces it over the boundary line.
It was really like Michael Johnson style, wasn't it? With really high knees and
straight back.
Yep.
It's an incredible tale, Nick Blakey. We've touched on him raising the bat tonight in game 100, but he's got the longest contract currently out of any player in the AFL, signed till 2031. Hickey wins it down. Coming through, Goulden left it behind. Picked up by Crouch. There's a whistle for a high on the play, and it won't be advantage to the Crows. It'll come back. It'll be Rory Sloane at right half back to receive it. Adelaide looked like they may have been out there through the Max Bashir stand wing, but in the end, free kick coming back to them.
Just the 7 disposals for Sloane thus far in the game. 86% disposal efficiency.
Just signed for another year in the tricolours of Adelaide. He gets his kick underway long and down the line again, and it falls over the back. The two ruckmen, Riley Thilthorpe and O'Brien, were there, but Blakey went off the ground, gained 25 metres for his side. And eventually the ball over the line as Hayward and Sloane went at it. So just ahead of centre wing for the Swans on the eastern side of the ground, the ball to be thrown back in. That rain has stopped and Sydney has not stopped.
Over at the Docklands, Saints by 16. Here it's the Swans by 38. Off the boundary throw-in, Sloane goes to ground. Managed to be picked up by Warner. Exits up towards the arc for Sydney. Fist comes through from McLean. It's spilled down towards Crouch. Gives it to Laird. Here come Adelaide on the outer side. Walker uses the body. Broke away from McCartan but couldn't control it. And Tom's at the back. Hands it off to Florent. Trying to go inside to Goulden. Didn't realise Dawson was right behind him. Barrels him over. Picked up by Warner, who spins out of trouble. Kick was pushed, so it tumbles towards the boundary line. They want deliberate, but it certainly wasn't his intention. He was under immense pressure to get out what was a very flooded square. And in the end, it'll be tossed back into play. True centre wing, out of sight.
I think Rory Sloane here, what's he?
Eye.
Just walking himself off.
Yeah, he's got an eye issue, right eye. So off the ruck contest, Adelaide able to take it away through Laird. Interesting kick. He found Walker well enough for him to get a hand pass forward. He found Murphy, 25 from goal. He goes with a kick and coming across the front of the pack, McAdam with a strong mark.
Again, if you highlight that one there, Cossie, too. So Thilthorpe goes back. That's where Murphy wanted to put the kick. Why wouldn't he just go short and have a lead-up player? And then you have McAdam come across because they're all worried about the height of Thilthorpe. So I think Adelaide were very lucky on that occasion.
Rain starting to come down again as McAdam comes in. 20 out straight in front. Well, we made the goal. Umpire do a lot of work, but that's okay. It was in there, and Adelaide kicked their third of the quarter. Bring that margin down to 32 points. Adelaide 4-3-27. Sydney 9-5-59. Long quarter, we're past 33 minutes now.
Well, important goal there from McAdam, wasn't it? We saw Taylor Walker just moments ago kick one for Adelaide. Now the margin's 32 points, so that's still gettable. We're starting to get away from Adelaide in terms of scoreboard pressure and what it looked like, but those 2 late goals, still, 40 seconds left in this second quarter. They've got to either restrict, but if they could sneak another one, then it's definitely game on.
Clearance is 59 of 45 Sydney's way. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Rory Sloane looks to be in a lot of pain down here. The doctor's just really taking a look at him at the moment. But he doesn't look to be all that comfortable at all.
Tossed up in the middle. Neither ruck got a clean tap. Dawson fighting for the footy. Getting tagged by Mills tonight. There's a holding free kick going his way. They'll take the advantage, but they don't really have it. Michael Annie now wrestling for it across half-back. Dawson put his head over it and is collected in the process. Free kick to go his way, and every single touch he's had tonight has been hard fought. The skipper, Jordan Dawson. This will be number 10. Certainly down on his average.
Spent many years in Sydney before coming back to Adelaide.
Presenting is Thilthorpe. He hits him, but he can't control the chest mark. Couple of juggles, puts it down. Blakey swarms, gave it to Parker, who flung it out. Absolute throw in the hinge tackle. Whistle stays away until the siren sounds. There's a little bit of concern in the square at the moment. Blakey's gone down in a bit of pain. Seems to be clutching his right ankle. He's on his haunches at the moment. Little proppy as he gets back to his feet. And what was that collision with Thilthorpe fighting for the footy. So we'll keep an eye on that heading into the second half. But at the major break, it is Sydney by 32 points. They certainly have Adelaide's number tonight. 9-5-59 plays 4-3-27. It could have been a whole lot worse if it wasn't for 2 late goals from the home side. Goal scorers at halftime for the Swans, 2 to McLean and Heaney. Singles to Hayward, Francis, Papley, Wicks and Campbell. For the Crows, all individual, Crouch, Walker, McAdam and Schomburg. Sydney still have Melbourne next week, so a win tonight doesn't lock them into the 8, but it certainly puts them in a good position. And Adelaide, meanwhile, they're teetering on a dangerous edge. Their season could be all but over in the next hour if they don't find a solution, down by 32 points. The thoughts of Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco at halftime.
Sydney have been great. They have really come to play. The pressure has been immense. Adelaide's defence has really struggled with composure to use the football, and that's where they've been so good. They create, generate, run and rebound. They come through the middle of the ground. Sydney have not allowed them to do that pretty much all night. And then when Adelaide have gone forward, the only thing we talk about, it's easier to watch it up here, but Taylor Walker's just continually going at Tom McCartan to actually just body him off. He needs to come up and hit the football. Fogarty's been well held. Isaac Rankin early was electric, but they just haven't got it in there. The defence of Sydney has been exceptional in this first half. They're getting their hands on the football, but Sydney are actually touching them up in the clearance work and around the ground and the stoppages too. So Adelaide, if you are an Adelaide supporter and you're looking at this game, you're going, well, we're actually not playing that well because Sydney are playing so good. So you'd like to think maybe that's the message at the moment, that Matty Nix goes in and say, boys, we need a lift. And if we can get on top. And if you go back to last week too, Sydney played the Gold Coast. They won by 24 points. They weren't that convincing. They are going okay. The Gold Coast kicked 2 goals 6 in that last quarter. So they were lucky that they actually kicked wayward. Otherwise, the game might have gone the other way. So tonight, I've been super impressed with the way Sydney are playing.
And the other thing as well, when you talk about the modern game, and I know I talk a lot about it up here in the commentary box, but it's field position, particularly in these conditions. If you lose contest, you lose ground balls, you lose field position, you don't give your forwards a chance to get hold of the footy, you don't give your side a chance to kick goals. And too often we've seen the long bail out, the long down the line kick to the wing, and the method and the ability for Sydney, they're smaller players that have that leg speed to be able to close time and space and get the ball back and re-enter, was just outstanding from the Sydney Swans. And as we said, they dominated that quarter. They got a couple of goals late, Adelaide, through Walker and McAdam, which keeps them within touch on the scoreboard. But at the moment, the signs aren't great. And even just to highlight that, probably the only stat that Adelaide won that quarter with a tackle count +3, and that's probably because they didn't have a lot of the ball. The contested possession, Sydney were +14. The ground ball gets, so the ability for their players to get on that loose ball through speed, through their dynamic small players, they were +15 that quarter, which, as I said, results in field position and results with the inside 50 discrepancy of +9 in favour of the Sydney Swans. So at the moment, it's been a dominant performance by Sydney. The only thing I would say from Adelaide's perspective is, from a scoreboard point of view, they're still within reach. They still got a sniff due to those 2 late goals.
And it's only when the conditions really, isn't it, too? If it was a dry fast track, you're going to go, well, that 30 points is actually not that far away, but maybe that's going to hurt them at the moment with the dew on the ground, and they haven't been able to do the things that's got them to where they are. We spoke about how good they've been up against quality sides, and they've been able to keep the margin low. Here will be another test from tonight.
Credit to Jordan Dawson, who's gone to half-back and managed to find some footy under the Mills tag, but it's pretty remarkable how impactful his absence is around the ground. I mean, in the middle, obviously, he's a presence, but generally when the Crows are on the counter, he's the player on the wings or even in the corridor who can get free, take the uncontested mark that gets the chain going for an entry, and without him there at the moment, they look a little flat-footed, the Crows.
Well, maybe where he needs to go is go to Chad Warner. Like, Chad Warner's clearing really well. I mean, Goulden plays on the wing. He's leading disposal at 12 at the moment. James Rowbottom, he's probably not going to stand him. He and Chad, they're the three keys.
So you think the better option of a tag is to then almost become the tagger in yourself and go to a different player and almost force Mills to leave you alone in that sense?
But I just don't know where, like Callum Mills, he might then go and pick up a lesser player or then become a loose player, and all of a sudden Jordan Dawson goes, well, where do I go? And so I think Sydney have done this really well in the first half as to how. Now, you look at the other side, and Rory Laird's had 18, going at 61%, but he gets it in and under, but he hasn't been really impactful at all. Yeah. And then you go Matt Crouch, he's had 15, metres gained 100. You know, like he gets it in and gets it out. And these are the types of games tonight where you need a Saligo to stand up. You need others. Maybe you throw Wayne Miller in the middle and just get some speed in there. Put Isaac Rankin in there just for a 5 or 10 minute burst. See if Adelaide can win some clearances, break away, get it forward with some space and kick 2 or 3.
And I reckon there's a couple of things. So going back to the Dawson-Mills matchup, it's obviously Sydney have done their homework. They realise how important Dawson is to Adelaide and to the Crows in terms of ball movement and just his leadership qualities. So they put Mills, who is a normal high possession winner himself when he's given a licence to run. So they're prepared to compromise Mills's influence, to compromise and negate Dawson's influence. I actually didn't mind the move when they sent him to half-back, and even watching a bit of the play unfold, he was able to break that tag and get involved in the game. They did throw him back in the middle late in that second quarter, but as soon as he went back in the middle, Mills went straight to him. So they've got to come up with some sort of plan, some sort of idea where they can get some and maximise Dawson's influence on this contest, because at the moment he's having a little bit, he's just starting to get going a little bit, but not the usual standard that we know.
And in the inside 50s, 22-31 at half-time in favour of Sydney. Adelaide have only had 9 shots, so they're only owned at 40%. They are the number one team, as we said, when they get it in there to score, and Sydney have been able to repel that. So when you look back here, I don't know if they've got it deep a lot of the time or whether they're just shallow. So the defence of Sydney, and you've seen like just the run and the rebound that they just bring at the moment, and they've got it over the top on a couple of occasions, a couple of poor choices in the back half too by Adelaide. You know, like if you go Hinge, like tried to reach, just slow down, get to it. There was a fumble, and Sydney were able to capitalise again through McLean, I think it was.
And look, no doubt, Nick's and the Adelaide Footy Club coaching staff would be talking about all of that, but I think their real concern would be the contested ball differential. They're not working hard enough and have been absolutely slaughtered in that phase of the game in terms of the contest, because Sydney have been dynamic and absolutely sensational in terms of getting on the loose ball, closing the opposition's time and space, and then being able to rebound off the back of the turnover.
The thoughts of All-Australian midfielder Josh Franco, Premiership Crow Rod Jamieson. It is Sydney by 32 points at half-time, trying to put themselves in the box seat for finals football this season. 9-5-59 plays Adelaide, 4-3-27 at half-time over at the Docklands. Midway through the third there, St Kilda leads Geelong by 19 points. Another game with plenty at stake. 7-11-53 to 5-4. 34 goal scorers there. Max King, backing up his 6 last week, has 3. And then a ton of individual goal scorers. Stengel, Sharman, Owens, Holmes, Higgins, Hawkins, Guthrie and Duncan. We'll recap some of the earlier games and what's happening around the country as well, and some other codes. But for now, on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital and the Listen app, it's time to take the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has urged Labor Party members to campaign like they've never campaigned before in an effort to have a yes vote in the Voice to Parliament referendum. Australians will vote this year on whether a Voice to Parliament, which would act as an independent advisory body for First Nations people, should be enshrined in the Constitution. Mr Albanese used the last day of the party's national conference in Brisbane to rally party faithful. He told those at the conference that they all need to work hard in the lead up to the vote.
Winning this referendum will depend on the conversations you have, the calls you make, the doors you knock on, the people you reach. There is no more powerful force for change than our great Labor movement.
An advocacy body for women in sport says it's gratifying to see more support for women's sport extend beyond cheering for Australia at the Women's World Cup. Off the back of the Matildas' success, the federal government has announced a $200 million grants program to support grassroots sporting programs. Jessica Ivers from Women's Sport Australia has welcomed the announcement.
It's almost a nice validation, I think, for a lot of people to be like, we've been telling you this for so long, and now finally everyone else is seeing it. And it's been so nice to see how everyone has just been caught up in the Matildas fever.
And in news just in now, Australia has missed out on third place at the Women's World Cup. The full-time whistle has just gone. They've gone down to Sweden at Brisbane's Lang Park this evening. The Swedes scored a goal in each half of the match to win 2-0 before another capacity crowd. The result means the Matildas finished fourth in this year's tournament, which is Australia's highest ever placing. Premier Daniel Andrews says the $380 million compensation payout for cancelling the 2026 Commonwealth Games in regional Victoria is the best outcome that could be achieved in the circumstances. Following negotiations involving mediators, the Victorian government late last night agreed to pay the sum to the Commonwealth Games Federation, Commonwealth Games Federation Partnerships and Commonwealth Games Australia. Last month, the government decided to withdraw hosting the event in regional Victoria when it realised the bill would likely skyrocket to be at least $6 billion. Mr Andrews says the matter is now finalised with all parties.
I acknowledge that this has been a very challenging time for them, very disappointing for them as well as athletes and many other people, but the fact that they were able to engage in good faith in these important negotiations and get a settlement is a good outcome for everybody involved.
A man has faced court charged over a murder on the Gold Coast. Alexandria Utting reports.
Emergency services were called to a tavern at Robina on Thursday night after 26-year-old Dylan McPadden was stabbed in the chest. He died in hospital a short time later. Police yesterday raided a Mermaid Beach motel and charged 26-year-old Tyler Remy Malcolm Hales with murder. His case was mentioned in the Southport Magistrates Court today. He's been remanded in custody to reappear in court later this month.
China state media are reporting that Chinese forces have begun military exercises around Taiwan. Here's East Asia correspondent Kathleen Calderwood.
This comes only days after the Taiwanese Vice President William Lai transited through the US twice on his way to and from the Paraguayan president's inauguration. China claims the self-governed island of Taiwan as its territory and hasn't ruled out the use of force to achieve reunification. Chinese state news agency Xinhua is reporting the People's Liberation Army has launched air and sea exercises around the island. A spokesperson is quoted saying it serves as a warning to so-called Taiwan independence separatists colluding with foreign parties. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defence says they will send troops to respond and protect the island democracy.
Questions are being raised in Britain about whether a nurse who killed 7 newborn babies and tried to kill another 6 could have been stopped. Lucy Letby was found guilty after a 10-month trial in Manchester in the north of England. This mother describes how one of her twins was killed by Letby.
He had blood around his mouth. And Lucy was there, but faffing about, not doing anything. Lucy said, oh, don't worry, and she told me to go back to the ward.
In AFL, Greater Western Sydney has moved into the top 8 with a thrashing of Essendon. The final score, 162-36. This is ABC News.
ABC Listen.
In the year I turned 8, our family's restaurant was firebombed in the middle of the night. This was a targeted attack.
In the late 80s, a campaign of terror shook Perth. But you've probably never heard about it.
Racist posters.
Gunfire.
Join Crispy and Chan on this deeply personal investigation.
How did they get away with it for so long?
Firebomb, the new series of the Unravel True Crime podcast. Find it on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Oh, Heaney off the ruck contest with a great snap off the left foot. Wait on the goal umpire. I think it's there. It is. It came down, and at pace, Heaney met it. Got the left foot to the ball high, and it went through. So the Swans get an early one on the second term.
The Norwood product sends it into the arc. Off hands, Packley, swarms, tumbles it towards goal. Excellent finish. Tom Packley, ever the opportunist.
So off the ruck contest, Adelaide able to take it away through Laird. Interesting kick. He found Walker well enough for him to get a hand pass forward. He found Murphy, 25 from goal. He goes with a kick and coming across the front of the pack, McAdam with a strong mark. Rain starting to come down again as McAdam comes in. 20 out straight in front. Well, he made the goal umpire do a lot of work, but that's okay. It was in there, and Adelaide kicked their third of the quarter.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Sydney well and truly in control at the Adelaide Oval heading into the second half and surging towards their 6th consecutive victory. One of the most informed sides in the competition have certainly timed their run at the right period as they head towards what could be another finals campaign, their 11th of the last 13. And a lot of it has been driven not only by their hard work in what is a wet weather game, but also the master coaching of John Longmire, who's managed to shut down Jordan Dawson with a Callum Mills tag and then opened up his players around the ground. In what is wet footy, their disposal has been elite. Sydney certainly looking like the better team so far this evening. But we do have 2 quarters to go. You never know. As we saw earlier today, a couple of close ones and a really big one. The first game saw Richmond defeat North Melbourne by 29 points in the swan song for Jack Zeeble, Trent Cotchin and Jack Rewalt. Dustin Martin up to his old tricks, not only getting his teammates involved, but had 31 touches and 3 goals. Shea Bolton had 4 goals with 25 touches. Harry Sheasel the best for the Roos with 37. The middle game was a thriller in the end. It looked like Gold Coast might be able to pip Carlton and end their winning run, but the Blues got there at Carrara late. Charlie Curnow had 5 goals to close the door on the Coleman medal race. Nick Newman had 31 touches. Sam Flanders the best for the Suns with 36. And then the blowout that I mentioned, the Giants absolutely annihilated Essendon, 126 points to put a dagger in the Bombers campaign. Jesse Hogan with 9 goals, Tom Green with 39 touches and a goal, and Zach Merritt the best for Essendon with 27 points. Double-header tonight, so here at the Adelaide Oval, Sydney by 32 points, and another game with plenty at stake in terms of finals football. The Saints and the Cats at the Docklands, heading towards 3-quarter time. St Kilda have led for the majority of the contest, and they're up by 3 goals. 8-11-59 plays 6-5-41. Max King has 3 for the Saints, Tom Hawkins with 2 for the Cats there. So we'll keep you up to date with that across the remainder of this evening. Over in Brisbane, the battle for third in the Women's World Cup went the way of Sweden, 2-0 to the Matildas. They conceded a penalty early and then another goal in the second half, the Aussie women's side. So they get a well-earned rest now after their best ever campaign in the Women's World Cup, but unfortunately they can't leave third place. They'll be down in 4th now. In the NRL, a couple of games today. We saw the West Tigers defeat the Dolphins by a point, 24-23. The Panthers defeated the Titans 40-14. At the moment, 66 minutes in, the Storm lead the Dragons 30-24. Still to come tomorrow, a couple of games, the Knights and the Rabbitohs and the Raiders and the Bulldogs. Here at the Adelaide Oval, Jamo and Josh, it's a question of whether or not Adelaide can flip the switch and be a little bit competitive in what is a pretty big crowd here tonight who are braving the conditions. They knew it was the biggest match of the year, an elimination final of sorts for them, but they certainly haven't turned up. And I'm wondering, Jamo, if a bit of that is some of the big games the Crows have played over the last few weeks. They really put it all out there against Brisbane, and maybe for this young side they're starting to run out of legs.
Well, I think you've seen Matty Nix. He's actually just managed some players over time, hasn't he, too? Like Pedlar's coming in and out. Michael Lanny had a week off too. Rory Sloane's been in and out, albeit I think Rory Laird, a little bit older player and more experienced, but had a slight small niggle, but he just managed him. So you just got to work your way through. And please, I'm just trying to paint a picture again how well Sydney are playing, but how poorly Adelaide are playing too. When you have a look at the hit-outs here, it's 27-16. That O'Brien is over Hickey. Hit-outs to advantage 10-4. Clearances, Laird, Crouch are leading the way. First possession, Laird, Crouch are leading the way, and then it comes into Papley, Warner. So they're doing all the right things, but somehow their disposal efficiency, which was so low in that first quarter, Sydney were really clean. Inside 50s they were scoring. Adelaide couldn't score the other way. So Adelaide, I don't think, and I'll get a gauge probably, I guess, in this quarter, the crowd will get behind. They kicked, 3 in that second quarter, and you just got a sense that the crowd is trying to get them going. And there's so many players, like the Josh Rochelle one,
He's had a really poor second half of the year, hasn't he?
Well, again, he's a young kid with great expectation, but he tried an overhead mark down here, which he should have taken. He clean, no contest, dropped it. Sydney get hold of it, go back the other end and have a shot on goal. 5 minutes later, he drops a head above with his head down. He's just got to find a way, and you've got to get around him and get him up. So maybe it has been a long year for a couple of the younger players.
Well, one thing I would like to see from Adelaide, and looking at how they're lining up in the centre bounce, looks like Pedlar's come onto the ground along with Laird and...
So it must be Sloan
Dawson as well.
Possibly.
Possibly Sloan's been subbed out of the game. But like to see a bit more speed in there. You talk about Rochelle, but even Isaac Rankin, can they inject some speed around the ball and get on those loose ground balls? We'll wait to see.
Let's check in with Liz and see what's happening with Rory Sloan.
Yeah, the Crows have just confirmed that he's been subbed out of the game with an eye injury. He's actually not down here on the benches, so he must still be in the rooms.
Underway in the second half. Ball out in the direction of Pedlar, who's come on, has the sub. He couldn't get it, picked up and kicked forward by O'Brien. Got it to Keys, just slapped forward by Pedlar inside 50. Adelaide forcing it forward. Rampy came bursting through for Sydney. Kicked it out long. Pulled down by McLean, couldn't actually get the second grab. On the ground again, it's inside the centre square now. Again, O'Brien, hands and knees, gave it up to Laird, taken down by Rowbottom. Hickey had it, got it out. Now Parker, it's bobbling around. Michaelani, he got it up to Keane. And finally a clean disposal. Finds the chest of McAdam at the front end of the square.
They're racing forward, but McAdam decides to pop it short. Dinked it to Murphy, who's immediately wrapped up and kills any momentum they had. Ball up just inside the square.
Well, Dane Rampy isolated incident again in the third quarter. Just how clean coming out of defence they get it there. McAdam makes the wrong decision. Go one-on-one to Walker and back him in.
O'Brien taps it out of the stoppage as it tumbles towards the arc. Free kick. High tackle late on Lloyd. He wants to take the advantage. Long ball up to half forward. Racing back is Papley and Heaney. It's slapped away from them. Keane gathers, gives it to Worrell. Adelaide get the exit to the outer side. It's poor. A bit too long and wide for Saligo, and it rolls over the boundary line in front of the Max Bashir stand. Now, Crossy, the eye injury to Rory Sloan, I guess hopefully not a follow-up to the one he had a couple of years ago, detached retina that required surgery in 2021.
Yep, missed some football with that, and he acknowledged at that time about how serious it was. Had a month or more out at that stage, came back, as we know, and is just signed a contract for next season. We hope he's okay. Ball down to half forward for Adelaide. Back to centre wing, cleared by McCartan. Near the boundary on the eastern side. Saligo picked it up, sent it back on the full. McCartan will have another free kick for the Swans.
So on the outer side, just waiting for the footy to come back.
We're only 2 minutes in, but there's probably been 4 occasions where you could show your players and just go, what were you thinking when you made that decision? And they're the things that Adelaide have been getting right for a lot of part of the year.
Goulden down the line. Hickey amongst the pack, got front position, takes the mark, hands it off to Warner. Back outside to Goulden, who kept running. He slips over in the wet, loses his footing. Saligo swarms, picks it up, holding free kick, coming back to Chad Warner. Rory Laird, the offender.
He actually played that pretty well there, Warner. Didn't take possession of the footy. Technically there, not much in it, but I thought he played that well.
They've been so methodical all night. Warner heads into the arc. Leading out was Campbell. Knocked away from him by Schomburg. Ball will be held up as Michaelani was entangled with Parker.
This is where
40 out straight in front.
Sydney set up so well behind the footy here.
Klein with a knockdown. Mills couldn't get a clean possession away. Now he soccers it off the ground towards the goal face. It's just rolling out a metre from the behind post in that scoreboard pocket. Sydney attacking the northern end. Will get a throw in.
They almost set up like soccer, don't they? They had 5 across there, the 50-metre line. They had another 4 across the centre-half forward line, and then 1 sort of sitting back.
And they've got Lloyd as the wicket-keeper and Hickey as the extra.
So there's soccer and cricket in amongst all this.
Yep.
Toss back in. O'Brien slapped it over his head to Pedler, who was immediately wrapped up by Rowbottom, the tackling machine.
And what happens here as well, if there's good pressure on the ball, you hack it forward, you kick it straight to the opposition.
McLean takes it out of the ruck this time, hands it back to Papley. A couple of fumbles, taken off the footy now. Goulden gathers, turns, squares up his kick into the Campbell was the target, but he couldn't quite get there. Good effort from Rankin, back with the flight to claim it. Instead goes wide as they were surging through the corridor, and now they're under pressure again. Great little tackle laid from McDonald, or was it? Whistle on the play, too high. Free kick to go Adelaide's way. Borlase, I think he tucked his head in there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Aaron.
He's gotten away with it. Right half back, free kick to the Crows. Down by 32 points. No score so far in the third.
Forced to go down the line and high on this broadcast side. O'Brien had the ball knocked away. Swans again through the hands, finds Rampy. Rampy inside 50, long with a kick. Going back, well, there was a collision there. Then Heaney came in high. And it'll be Keane who's gone down, and he'll receive the free kick. Crowd aware, I think, of the free kick count. Happy that Adelaide's got one there. So Keane, the Irishman, not too keen to go down the line. So he goes across the goal face. And Adelaide just trying to switch, but without success. Brodie Smith backs up. He's only 20 metres from the goals. Comes back this side. Long, Rochelle an opportunity, straight through his hands. Rampy got it, Rochelle tackled him. Rampy for hand pass forward. It's come to Warner from Mills, and Warner goes long and going back. Borlase with the flight of the ball. He won't get it. Slides off the turf and over the boundary line in the right forward pocket for the Swans. The scoreboard pocket. And Adelaide has the task in front of it still. 32 the margin in favour of the Swans as it was at half-time, 5 minutes into the third term.
3 simple, easy marks. You might as well put a hand puppet out there.
He's a shell of himself. Josh Rochelle off the ruck contest rolls towards the boundary line again, and they'll try again in the scoreboard pocket.
But I think you also called it, Crossy. They do look to switch the ball, but again, Sydney set up superbly, stopped the switch, forced the long down the line. But as you said, Gemma, Rochelle, if he opened his mouth, he would have swallowed it.
Swans by 32. In their attacking 50, both rucks missed it. Warner comes through, holding free kick to come back. O'Brien was pushed out of it by McLean, so Adelaide receive it in defensive 50. They're kicking to the Riverbank stand end, the right of your radio dial in the third. They need to find something to spark some life into their finals hopes.
Right.
Keane drives it straight up the middle. Plenty of players waiting. Lloyd Rose with the spoil. It spills out to Schomburg. The don't argue on Campbell, but he fell over on the turn. Has to handball it forward to Keys. Left it for Rankin. Breaks away from Hickey. Runs to 35. Tackle dropped it. Sydney with the rebound now. Long exit comes from Florent to the outer side. It's bouncing in the hole. Hickey Brave sliding in. Slaps it back to Goulden. And the Swans have some time to work with it. Not as much as they thought in the end. McAdam runs him down. Ball trickled to Laird. They reset on centre wing.
Good step around there by Keane. Drives it long inside forward 50 for Adelaide. Dawson had hands on the ball. Couldn't take the mark. Follow-up tackle was pretty good. Cunningham got it out to Hickey. They're working across the goal face. They got it to Campbell from McCartan, and then Campbell exits. And what a brilliant diving mark that was. Taken by Parker just on defensive 50 on this broadcast side. He backs up.
McAdam absolutely nailed Rampy then. That is...
It's cool play on as he went short. Adelaide will get the ball back inside 50. Fogarty with a kick. He's missed everybody. In the forward pocket, he had a loose player, was Keys, and he missed him by 5 or 10 metres, and the ball went out of bounds. Right forward pocket for Adelaide. Still we are where we were at half-time.
Well, it hasn't translated on the scoreboard. I reckon Adelaide look a little bit more involved in the game, playing with more intensity around the footy, getting first possession.
Still a 32-point lead to the Swans. Boundary throw-in cleared. Walk around. Hickey at the back. Rochelle tumbles one to the goal square. Picked up by Blakey. No pressure as he launches the exit to the broadcast swing. McLean using the body on Keane. Couldn't quite pull it in. Spills to the back. Wicks weaves away from Michael Annie. Gets it to Hayward. Keeps it in with the check side. Probably should have just walked it over because he's kicked it straight down the throat of Hinge. He'll square it up to the defensive edge. Finds Mark Keane.
Got Matt Crouch in the middle.
Had to go for it, didn't he? Still on.
Turn and go.
It was Michael Annie. was a short pass, and then inboard he went to Crouch. Straight away, hand pass to Hinge. Long kick inside 50. Flying across was Blake. He punched it towards the boundary line. Oh, somehow Rankin picked it up and snapped it off the outside of the right foot. Brilliant goal from Rankin. Surely that can lift the Crows. Adelaide 5-3-33. Sydney 9-5-59. We're 8 minutes into the third term.
Before you talk about the goal, Jamo, what I really liked about that play there was Keane just didn't kick it long, boring down the line where they've been getting beaten around the contest. He looked to come in board, didn't take that one, had one leading up at him. Then they were able to hit Crouch into the middle of the ground and get that speed on the ball and the entry, the deeper entry inside forward 50. And over to you to talk about Rankin's goal.
Well, Dane Rampy is a quality defender too. He's just manoeuvred him, he's bodied, and Harry Cunningham's given him a bit of space, and it's normally the pocket where you'd use your left foot to snap over your right shoulder. He's just almost done a banana.
As close to the behind post as you could be. He's made it work.
Listen to this.
Well, the margin, 26 points. They're right back in this, Adelaide. Good signs.
There's some belief at the Adelaide Oval. O'Brien wins it down, busting through Mills. Turns straight to Dawson, who brings him down. They've found their voice, the Crows faithful. Ball up in the square. Over at the Docklands, three-quarter time, St Kilda by 27 over Geelong.
Look at that. Goulden pushes down. Warner is pushing down. Hayward is pushing down.
O'Brien takes it out of the ruck but misses his boot. McLean gets an opportunity for the clearance. A hit in hope that rolls towards the boundary line. They're desperate for deliberate. It hasn't gone their way tonight, and it will continue that way. Boundary throw in, left half forward for the Swans.
Settle in, folks. Here comes the ball back into play. O'Brien gets to the front, got the tap down. Great pick up by Crouch. Scramble the ball 20-30 metres down. Walker just slapped it wide. He was looking for Murphy going past. It was straight over the boundary line though. The Swans looking at the umpire who said, no, that's fair enough. Throw it in. We're near the interchange gates on this broadcast side of the ground.
Numbers around the footy.
Yeah.
Forgot how big his biceps were, Walker, and just powered that over the line. Toss back in. McLean wins it down, rolling towards the boundary line. Goulden keeps it in, or does he? Did his best to try and sell that he was trying, but...
Well, Pedler was hoping that was in, because he had Warner lined up from about 10 metres away.
So we toss back in again. Just forward of centre wing for the Crows. Curls back towards the logo off the boundary throw-in. McLean won it down. Mills put his head over it, couldn't gather. Parker sockers forward, Goulden gathers. No look, handball was excellent to Francis. One-on-one in the 50. He sends it the way of Heaney. Clunks it up against Hinge. The last possible moment pushed off him and claims it dead in front. 15 out. A blow to the Crows' hopes.
Errol Goulden, we spoke about his work rate in that first quarter and the first half. Just the two contests he was involved in, he just gets the football forward, and just the class almost, just that little touch just to free up Francis and Heaney, who has been quiet for the first part of the year, actually.
Long approach. Bullets it through. Puts Adelaide back in its place. 3 for Heaney. Margin back up to 32 points. 10-5-65 to Adelaide's 5-3-33. 12 minutes into the third on Grandstand AFL. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Sydney's Tom Papley has needed some physio on what looks like his left quad. He looks just a bit uncomfortable behind his left knee. So he's gone back out there now, but he's got heavy strapping around it.
We saw that last stoppage here in front of the commentary box on centre wing, just the numbers around the contest. And at the moment, and we talked about the contested ball in favour of Sydney, it's not quite working for Adelaide. And I don't know what they can do, but I'd like to see them open up the stoppage. So whether they bring their forwards that have come up, hold them deep, hold 6 forwards ahead of the ball to get a bit more space around those stoppages, because at the moment it's not quite working for them.
Adelaide will get the centre break through Saligo, who ran in off the wing on the eastern side. Long he goes inside 50, comes off Walker's chest eventually, gets over the ball. Then in comes Murphy, gave it to... Oh, he didn't get the hand pass out. Finally, it's come in the pack to Rochelle. Surely was taken high. Umpire said no, throwing the ball. So, another free kick against Adelaide. Tom McCartan to take the free kick for the Swans. Immediately hands it off Blakey, kick was smothered. Here's your chance, Rochelle. Mid-air. Oh, he socketed the ball across the goal face in the end. That would have been a freak goal.
Good pressure. Has a soccer background too.
I wonder which celebration he would have pulled out if he finished that one off.
So minus score 31, the difference. Still in favour of the Swans. They're feeling the heat though.
Long exit to the outer side. Floating across Saligo with the fist. Spills to the back. Heaney wants to keep it in with a half volley. Skies it up towards the logo. Bounces through centre wing. Didn't quite favour Hinge. Got a hand to it and paddled it to Saligo, who left it behind. Laird's there though. Nice little chain with Crouch and back to Michael Annie. Snaps around the body up towards Rankin. Nice mark in front of Cunningham. Wants to move it with pace. Heads into the left forward pocket. Walker's his target. Outnumbered 2-on-1. And Blakey floated across with the fist to force it over the boundary line.
McCartan was good there, wasn't he? Just held Walker out. Didn't give away a free kick and allowed Blakey to air assist.
So the ball to come in on the boundary umpire as he sets himself about 20 around from the goal face. Adelaide attacking the River Torrens into the ground. In it comes Walker against McLean. Walker just a tap down. Good tap. Through came Rankin, immediately tackled. Forced to release it. Florent picked it up. Then Campbell just got it about 10 metres. It was helped on its way. Outside defensive 50 for the Swans. Worrell had it. His kick partly smothered. They're working hard, the Swans. Hayward went to ground in a tackle from Borlase. He had the ball, lost it in the tackle. Now it's called play on advantage and a big advantage. Hand passed off McDonald to Warner. Inside 50. Sliding the ball towards the goals and away for the minor score. Crowd not happy. And as much as anything, it's the disappointment of how Adelaide's just unable to finish the job.
I think the umpiring quartet will need an escort out of here. Adelaide exit to the outer side. Saligo back with the fight. Outmarks Warner and breaks away from him as well while he argued with the umpire. Kick a little shallow for Walker. Gathered at his toes. Turns. Tumbles one up towards Dawson. Good diving tackle. Almost a spear jumping across from Hayward. And pushed him over the boundary line. A little bit of afters as well. He'll be tossed back in front of the Mark Rasciuto stand. 32 points the margin. It was the three-quarter time margin as well.
Half-time.
Half-time. I'm getting ahead of myself. Still plenty of footy to come.
16 minutes into this third quarter. 1 goal, 1 apiece.
Toss back in. McLean fists it towards the boundary line and Crouch is happy to leave it as it rolls back over. At the Docklands, final term, St Kilda up by 32 points, which you would think ends Geelong's season. So another team will be out of the race. Gets ever so tighter in the 8.
It's tight for Adelaide. Their window closing fast. Ball off the ruck contest. McLean takes it eventually and it'll be coming back. It'll be an Adelaide free kick because Murphy was taken down without the ball. Hand pass off straight away to Worrell. Running past, fumbled it, went and picked it up. Close to the boundary line. Goes long. Ball off hands. Papley couldn't take it. Goulden there working hard and deep for the Swans. Outside 50 with a kick. Ball ace knocks it back in for Adelaide. Ball comes to ground. Laird's kick partly smothered. In comes Saligo. Gave it the Keys. Fumble. And the Swans are able to clear it back through the centre by Campbell.
Waiting back was Michael Annie. Tried to break away from Francis. Didn't realise Heaney was there as well on the sandwich. Spills out to Smith. Low curling ball through the logo broadcast side. Keys jumped up to get it. Couldn't control it. Spilled through him. Lloyd, little handball out. Found Wicks, then Hayward. Managed to find a gap where there wasn't one. And a little kick up to the logo to Warner. Now inside to Goulden on the 45. Spots Stevens. Can hand it off. Warner kept running. Centre half forward. Back to Goulden. What a trifecta. Loads up with a lethal left, but can't finish. Minus score on the left-hand side. Sydney look electric on the counter.
Good build-up.
They're up by 33 points. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, that annoying rain has started falling again. Happily, I've got my poncho at halftime, so I'm all sorted. But the thing to really note down here is just how visible the water is glistening on the Adelaide Oval grass. It definitely looks slippery.
Looks like the rain's getting just a little bit heavier as Adelaide goes out of defence through Michael Annie. Out towards centre wing. Rochelle socketed forward. Pressured Blakey off the ball. Logo on centre wing. Rochelle the hand pass out. Found Saligo. Dropped it in short. Looking for the contest. It's come to Murphy. Hand passed it to Crouch, and then he's found Walker. 49 from goal. This is possible for Walker, you would think. Backs up, looks inside, nothing available.
Absolutely, this is possible. I think we saw the showdown. Wasn't this the angle when the almost
all day, every day
place where he kicked that left footer?
Yeah, he actually lined up for the right foot. Aliir jumped in the air. He stepped left and nailed it from 50 out. That'll lift the roof and probably what Adelaide need to get back into the game.
I wonder if the rain makes a difference. We'll see. Walker back for the set shot.
We could do it again.
In he comes. No, goes with the right foot, goes long and pulls it slightly to the left for the minus score, 32 the margin. So for all Adelaide's efforts, where we were at halftime, a 32-point margin in favour of the Swans.
Funnily enough,
dangerous kick coming out of the defensive goal square. Blakey actually hit Goulden, who put it down and then threw it out under pressure. Free kick to go Adelaide's way. Josh Rochelle to receive it. Straight in front, 20 out.
I was going to say, funnily enough, with that Tex Walker kick, Luke Parker actually didn't jump in the air, so maybe he'd done his homework, but just a bad turnover.
Errol Goulden isn't terribly stiff there. I think he's got his left hand to that. He's handballed it out, and the umpires said that was a throw.
Well, the Crows fans will eat it up. The whistle hasn't gone their way tonight.
And I'll say it was karma.
Rochelle, speaking of poor performances, hasn't been his best. He needs a goal here, and he delivers. Just what the Crows needed. Margin down to 26 again. Sydney 10-7-67. Adelaide moved to 6-5-41. Time on in the third. On Grandstand AFL, Aaron Bryant and Neil Cross with you, your experts, Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco. What's the verdict, gents?
We're just looking at the replay now, and I can understand why the umpire called it a throw. A throw was sort of an open hand, wasn't it? It wasn't a clenched fist, so probably not a bad result and a call from the umpire.
Not as unlucky as you, I guess, initially thought.
No, that's right. We talked about Rochelle's game, just starting to get involved a little bit more. 10 disposals, he's kicked 1 goal, 1.
It's his efficiency, like Josh.
Whoops, sorry.
50%.
Yep. Out of the middle. Adelaide will get it. Crouch gave it to Dawson. Then they went to the wing where Keys was. Keys went inside 50. Walker wanted contact. The ball went over the back. Blakey with a hand pass to Florent. Then he flicked it back looking for Fox. Went straight to the boundary line. The umpire says, throw it in. He was under pressure and surely hand passed it over the line.
Oh, yes. Every day of the week.
Throw it in. 30 around from the goal face in the left forward pocket for Adelaide.
They've been horrible tonight, both ways, mind you.
Funnily enough, it's a pretty experienced quartet. Chris Donlan, Justin Power, Lee House and Brett Rosebrick. Toss back in. Walker takes it out of the ruck. Hickey disposed of him. Went to Pedler. Diving handball to Laird. Tried to put it in the path of Rochelle, but ran out of room in the left forward pocket. Parker with the exit off a step. Heaney launches up against Hinge. Neither claimed it. And Wicks smashes it up towards the outer side. Smith knew it was coming and slides in with the intercept mark.
Good signs for Adelaide. As we said, they've got field position now inside 50s this quarter, 11-7 Adelaide's way.
Smith plays on, goes deep, over the back, no, ball doesn't get there. Adelaide had some numbers though lurking. Hickey gets it away for Sydney, gets it outside defensive 50, ball on the ground as Sydney go wide for Warner. Picks it up, handballs it inside. Under pressure was Papley, handballed it away. They've only got down to half forward. Back the other way, Millerer. Gave it to Schonberg. And then a neat little kick from Smith. Finds Laird, play on. Schonberg with him. Gave it outside to the boundary line where Smith just got the kick in under pressure. They're down to half forward. Back the other way comes Sydney. Here's Blakey with 2 bounces.
What a run it was, and an excellent delivery to the arc. Hits McDonald, who can turn. Empty goal square. Heads for home. Bang! What a finish. The Swans in a matter of seconds. A dagger to the Crows. Back to 32 points. For all of Adelaide's good work, it takes just a moment for Sydney to completely flip the script. 11-7-73 to the Crows, 6-5-41. 23 minutes into the third as a hush falls on the crowd and the hopes again a bit shaky
Well,
the
again,
home
you just
side.
saw the momentum. They tried to get it. Brodie Smith, it was good. They actually tried to draw the player, create the run and support from behind. The disposal was poor, but that's what Sydney have done all night. They actually turn it over, and they've just been clean, and their run. So looking at this time in possession, this quarter, Adelaide 46-33. Sydney, the last 10 minutes, 39-21. They've nearly doubled. They just haven't been able to get the goals that they need for all the work and effort they've put in.
Goulden out of the middle for Sydney, sends it wide to the eastern side. Miller had the ball, had to handball it away. He was under pressure and was tackled. Hickey knocked it out. Surely that was a flip out. Doesn't matter. Swans get it down to half forward. Wasn't a great hand pass by Hayward. Adelaide will get in there. Miller now has it. Received from Dawson. Short pass to Saligo. Inboard he went at 45. Found Laird. Swans have cut those kicks off most of the night. Out wide goes Laird to the eastern side. Dawson down to half forward. Rampy punched the ball away from Philthorpe, who went to ground. Wasn't happy with himself. Just outside attacking 50 for Adelaide at left half forward.
And I guess that's the problem too. When you're up against a side like Sydney and they're 5 goals in front, you work your backside off to kick a couple, and then because they transition the ball so well, they kick a couple of easy ones out of the blue and make the margin 5 goals again.
Toss back in. Hickey just forcing O'Brien away from the ball drop. Saligo gathers, breaks away from Stevens, kicks into the pocket, but Rampy had front position on Philthorpe and slams it into the 10th row. Boundary throw in to come just inside the arc. Riverbank stand end, 32 points the margin. Over at the Docklands, St Kilda by 26 midway through the 4th.
And because Sydney sets up so well behind the ball defensively, they're really difficult to score against, particularly under conditions like this tonight.
Walker gets to the front, knocks it down. Laird picks it up high with his kick, hopeful more than anything. McAdam flies, ball comes to ground. Hickey, Ruckman gets it off to Goulden. There's a rarity. He went with his right foot outside, and he found McLean, who got rid of his man Keane too easily. Took a chest mark. Relief for the Swans as he backs up and just takes his time. 25 down in the third quarter. And the score reads as it did at half-time, 32 points to the Swans.
Fighting for the footy, a pack right half forward for Sydney. Saligo wins out in the end. He's been electric this quarter. Disposal number 9 as he heads up to left half forward. Walker got shoved into the pack. Umpire didn't see it. Cunningham takes the intercept mark. Now out towards Campbell. Marks on the logo. Broadcast wing. Has Rampy as an option close to the benches. Uses him as Sydney slow things down. Precise in difficult conditions tonight, the Swans. It's been one of their best attributes all year. Their efficient and quick delivery. And in the pack, McLean somehow found himself in space from Keane. Took it on his chest under no pressure.
It's been good tonight.
Marks 55 out, points long. They'll send it that way. Up towards the goal square. At the back, Stevens in some space, had an arm over the shoulder, manages to get it anyway, snaps over his shoulder, but curled it across the goal face. Michael Lanny's brought down in the Papley tackle. Keeps one arm on him and one arm begging for the free. And he won't receive it. Yeah, little Tom Papley, so it'll be a ball up, left forward pocket. Swans attacking 50 northern end.
We'll never die wondering, Tom Papley. O'Brien with a knockout. Here's Papley, he went to ground. Umpire called play on. Heaney picked it up. Hand pass out, row bottom. Swans forced outside attacking 50. Found its way to Pedler for Adelaide right against the boundary line and over for the throw in. Been hard work. The Swans have made it hard for Adelaide. There's no doubt about that. And then they've been polished when they needed to be. And that's why they lead by 32 points late in the third term. Off the ruck contest. Pedler with a non-preferred right foot down the line. Fogarty should have taken a chest mark then. Dropped it. Swans come back through rope. Inside 50, ball just slides through. Keane does well. Hand passes out to Miller. Adelaide gets out of their defensive 50.
Heads to the broadcast swing. Rochelle flew with McAdam and they flew into each other. McAdam kept fighting though. Gathers on the bounce. To Saligo. Caught. Fox got him high. Free kick to go Adelaide's way.
Got some serious speed in this side, Sydney.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
Kick to Rankin, right half forward, close to the boundary line. Trailing by 32.
Minute and a half to go. third quarter.
Rankin puts it into the pocket. Fogarty launches, slips through his hands. Lloyd at the back. Rockets an exit. Crouch is alone and can take the intercept. Keane did well to hold McLean out of it. Crouch chips it towards the arc. Pedler. Bang on 55. Rochelle leading out was an option. And a defender right on him, so Pedler opts against it. On the left, he'll put it up towards the goal square. Plenty of Swans there. Walker rises above them. Couldn't reel it in with one arm. Heaney, amongst the flurry of bloods, gets the exit to left half back. Spoiled away from Hayward, who becomes the tackler on Crouch. Little 1-2. Crouch gets it back from Schomburg. Centres. Hickey crunched. Walker smashed into him. The intercept mark was there. And it's a free kick to the Swans ruckman in defensive 50.
Gee whiz, he crunched him, didn't he?
I thought he came in from the side. I thought it was... Cool, clearly not. I'm not an umpire.
It wasn't as vicious as it could have been. He certainly braced for it, but...
It's an elite physical game.
Hickey with the free kick. Out this broadcast side, the exit off the contest came down. Campbell picked it up. Just went for meterage down the line. Hinge was across there for Adelaide. Looks around. Nothing much available inside. Had to go short to Matt Crouch. Hand pass on to Schonberg. Then a short pass to Pedler. They've got it up to half forward methodically, but the Swans have numbers behind the ball again. Pedler goes long and high and asks something of Walker. Ball comes to the front of the pack. It's with Hickey again. Hand pass into space. Schonberg was there. Released it for Millerer. Wasn't effective. Millerer follows up. Had to release it Saligo. Then back to Worrell. Siren beats his kick. And it was a good kick too. It went right to the line. But no score. So three-quarter time. It's a long way back for Adelaide. You think the Swans will keep their finals hopes alive at three-quarter time at the Adelaide Oval. It's Sydney 11-7-73. Adelaide 6-5-41.
Goal scorers heading into the final term. Isaac Heaney with 3. Hayden McLean with 2. Singles to McDonald, Hayward, Francis, Papley, Wicks and Campbell. For the Crows, all individual: Crouch, Rochelle, Walker, Rankin, McAdam and Schomburg. One last chance for the home side. Sydney look back to their best at the moment, up by 32 points. Stay with us for the final term on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand AFL.
Journalists and politicians are natural enemies in some ways, but when you break bread with the enemy, it's surprising what you can find out. I'm Annabelle Crabb, and I'm back with a brand new season of Kitchen Cabinet. Here's the deal. I invite myself to a prominent politician's house, they cook me dinner, and I bring dessert. I'm polite, but I'm nosy. Join me for all new Kitchen Cabinet, Tuesday nights on ABC TV and streaming on ABC iView.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Michael Annie was a short pass and then inboard he went to Crouch. Straight away, hand pass to Hinge. Long kick inside 50. Flying across was Blake. He punched it towards the boundary line. Oh, somehow Rankin picked it up and slapped it off the outside of the right foot. Brilliant goal from Rankin. Surely that can lift the Crows.
Parker soccers forward, Goulden gathers. Noel Campbell was excellent to Francis. One-on-one in the 50. He sends it the way of Heaney. Clunks it up against Hinge. The last possible moment pushed off him and claims it dead in front. Long approach. Bullets it through. Puts Adelaide back in its place. 3 for Heaney. Excellent delivery to the arc. Hits McDonald, who can turn. Empty goal square. Heads for home. Bang! What a finish. The Swans, in a matter of seconds, a dagger to the Crows.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
The faint signs of life at the Adelaide Football Club have been washed out by an emphatic performance by Sydney tonight. They're up by 32 points heading into the final term. And they look like the grand finalists of last year once again. 11-7-73, play 6-5-41. The Swans surging towards a 6th consecutive win. Meanwhile, over at the Docklands, the reigning premier is about to be eliminated. St Kilda lead by 21 points in time on in the final term. 10-16-76 to Geelong 8-7-55. What that will mean is the last few teams in the hunt, or essentially there'll be 9 trying to get into the 8. So I guess the teams that can be affected from here on out, Sydney in 7th currently on 50 points, GWS on 48, and the Western Bulldogs still to play tomorrow on 44.
So it's either going to be Western Bulldogs
or GWS or Sydney.
Or Sydney,
yes.
Isn't it?
So if the Giants and the Bulldogs both win their remaining games, Sydney can still drop out from here. But it's really those 3 fighting for the last 2 if this game continues the way it currently has. So Adelaide about to be eliminated, Geelong the same, Richmond eliminated early, well, they won earlier today, but they've been eliminated in the past anyway. And Essendon, very disappointing 126-point loss earlier today, closed the door on their season. So the Swans certainly eyeing off September action once again. They're the gurus at it. It'll be their 11th campaign in the last 13 seasons. And you spent some time at the helm with John Longmire, didn't you?
Crazy, isn't it?
Tell us a bit about, I mean, tonight has been all about the master stroke in coaching, and you'd know more about John than anyone else, Josh.
Well, when I got there, and having been out of the system, the AFL system for quite a while, the thing that struck me is how fanatical John Longmire and the Sydney Swans were at defending. So talk about ball movement, wasn't spoken a lot about. It was basically, we just need to stop the opposition from scoring. So in terms of how they set up defensively, they are absolutely superb, and they have been, and that's a big part of the reason why they played finals for so many years with John Longmire at the helm. And you can even see it tonight. If opposition forwards go into the junk, they sit they used to call a wicket keeper, one of these blokes that sit almost as the last. Dane Rampy plays that role a lot. Callum Mills as well. I've just watched him in that quarter as well. So their ability to defend and absorb pressure from the opposition is outstanding. As I said earlier in the call, that probably the introduction of Don Pike in terms of their ball movement has been the biggest improvement with their game, holistically from a Sydney perspective. But John Longmire is just the absolute master at driving standards and accountability, but just his relentless, fanatical attitude towards defending the opposition and not wanting to score. And that's why they have the ability to hang in games on the scoreboard, so that they wait for momentum swings and changes in their favour. Then they now can capitalise on that with ball movement. So he's an absolute master.
Well, statistically too, I think the best defending teams in the competition always end up getting to the finals, don't they? So regardless, and then you touched on earlier that Don Pike's gone there and they've been able to manoeuvre a little bit way. You then go back to when Geelong were really quite successful. They had the big bodies, didn't they, around the football, and then Hawthorn go, well, we don't want to win the contested football. We actually want to get hold of it on the outside, but be so good at not giving it up. And then you've got to try and get it back off us. So, and that's when I guess the game then started to change in terms of your ability just to run and carry the football, and the bigger body was sort of slowly moved away from the game.
And what we've seen tonight, and they've realised they don't have a dominant ruckman, and even looking at the hit-outs, it's 48-21 Adelaide's way. So they've dominated the hit-outs, but they've brought numbers up to the stoppage. They've brought a couple of forwards up to congest the stoppage, put that stranglehold on Adelaide, not giving them any free ball around the stoppage scenario and in the scramble. And that's where Sydney do their best work. So they've been outstanding.
And just finally, like Josh Worrell gets that football on the 50. He fumbles. If he had taken that cleanly like Sydney have done for pretty much most of the night, he nails that as opposed to being saved on the line.
The thoughts of Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco. Sydney by 32 points. Goulden misses his boot in the middle. Knee taken out of him. O'Brien sends it into the arc for Adelaide, through the hands of Fogarty. At the back, Blakey wrestling with Rankin. Murphy comes in with the assist as well. Swarms, gathers, shrugs a couple, snaps in the scoreboard pocket. Superb! They needed that, Adelaide. A late boost of momentum to start the fourth term. 7-5-47 gives them a bit of hope. Sydney 11-7-73 in the opening minute on Grandstand AFL.
33 seconds that took to get Adelaide out of the middle. What I watched intriguingly through there was Matty Nix was talking to James Raley. James Raley's the forward coach, and they were quite animated for about 2 minutes in that third quarter. So whatever was happening, James is either saying, we are doing this, Matty Nix is going, make sure they are doing this. And they've started well.
And even touching again on Sydney, how well they defend. That's what's going to take for Adelaide to get back into this contest. Some magic, obviously, from Lockie Murphy. Rochelli's got to get involved. Rankin's got to get involved and hit the scoreboard.
Laird gets first touch off the ruck contest. Hand pass just into Hope. Kick forward by Pedler. In comes Keys. Hand passed it forward. Top of the 50. Ball on the ground. Pedler grabbed, taken away in a tackle, holding the man, said the umpire. The offender that time, Cunningham. I think on 2 occasions Pedler had a grip on the ball and then lost it. Now he's hand passed it off. Miller are running through from 48. Adelaide has a heartbeat. Great finish from Miller. Adelaide 2 goals in the first 2 minutes of the final term. All of a sudden it's a 20-point game. Adelaide 8-5-53, Sydney 11-7-73. Grandstand AFL at the Adelaide Oval. Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco, your experts.
Well, it's amazing just looking at the replay when you've got guys like Pedler that actually hunt the footy aggressively. You draw free kicks, which he did on that occasion, and just watching poor, I think it was McLean chasing Miller, who got the handball received and kicked a long goal. But again, it just goes back to getting that spark, getting your mids and those smaller players to get on that loose ball, get the hunt, the pressure, cause the turnover, surge the ball forward and create opportunities off the back of that.
2-2 in that third quarter apiece. Sydney and Adelaide in an arm wrestle, 2 in 2 minutes.
It's going up a gear at the Adelaide Oval. Laird missed the handball. Saligo came through in the middle, back to Smith. Sockers it up through the outer wing. Clean bowls Keys at the back, sliding in. Florent went straight into a tackle, holding the ball.
Now things are starting to run their way.
Shane McAdam played that so well.
Yep.
He slid into the football. McAdam on top. Gets the free kick. Kicks on the 45 to Smith. We know he's got a long right boot. Heads into the arc. Walker! Taylor Walker presents from the goal square. Adelaide electric at the moment in this final term with their season on the line. Set shot, 45-degree angle to come, 20 out.
This could be 3 from 3. They're on track to kick 20 goals this quarter.
The old Lee Matthews.
Unbelievable.
Goal a minute.
Game's flipped on its head.
You wouldn't want the ball in anyone else's hands in such a big moment. Taylor Walker kicks from 25. Here come the Crows. 2 to Tex. Margin at 14 points. 4 minutes into the fourth term. Liz Walsh downstairs.
And the crowd are so loud down here, loving every minute of what is going on at the moment. If the Crows needed any extra boost, then you'd think that this crowd is going to give it to them.
Well, I tell you what, we just spoke about John Longmire at 3/4 time. His blood pressure would just be starting to tick up a little bit.
He'd be going, Don Pike, get out of the box, get my team to defend like I know they can.
Absolutely.
What about, and when they came through, it was Nick Blakey came through and Darcy Fogarty's just dropped the shoulder and just put him straight down on his bum.
Game on again. In the middle. It's all square there. Umpire's going to come in after O'Brien probably had the better of it. He returns the ball.
Rowbottom, Parker and Mills. All the Jets in the middle for Sydney.
Hickey with the tap down. Ball loose on the ground. Nobody's got control now. Dawson had it in the hands. Finally flicks out. Pedler put the hand down. Went through. Then got a hand pass out. Rowbottom, the other hard nut in there. Got it down forward for the Swans. Adelaide have the man advantage back there. Picked up by Keane. Went to ground as he slipped over. Picked up by Hinge. Inboard with a short pass was good to Laird. Outside defensive 50. Miller, do you think Adelaide's been told to run? Past him quickly was Michael Annie. Down to half forward he goes. Ball comes off the Pat. Pedler, or rather, big tackle made by Fogarty. Ball on the ground again. It's held in close. The Swans through Goulden. Down the line he goes with the kick. Heaney and Miller. Miller comes away with it. Hand pass inboard. Pedler inside 50. Ball going over the back. Chance for McAdam. Knocked to ground. Was he hit high? Umpire says yes, free kick. He stayed down. I didn't think he was hit like that, but he certainly stayed down. And the trainers are around him. It was high from McCartan on the replay.
Chose to take the body, didn't he? He went through the contest, albeit how tough is it? You're actually under pressure. You've had 3 kicked against. As a key defender, you've got to put your footy over the football. He did, as did McAdam, put his head over, didn't care what was coming, and Adelaide win a free.
And while we wait for McAdam to take his kick, disposals this quarter, 22 Adelaide, Sydney just the 3. The contested possessions 11-4 Adelaide's way. Inside 50s 4-1. Metres gained 385 to 76. It's been an absolute transformation in this game.
Scores per inside 50. They've been in 4 times and kicked 3 already.
Oh, wow.
Chance for Adelaide's 4th goal of the final quarter. McAdam from 25, 45-degree angle, across the goal face it goes. And minus score for Adelaide. Down to Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, I think Sydney are about to bring their tactical sub Ryan Clark into the game. I'll check in with them, but Tom Papley was brought to the bench by the trainer, so it could be a medical. I'll check in with them.
Swans exit to the broadcast wing. Kick came out of defensive 50 to a pack, trickles to the back. Ball ace, one-on-one, battling with McDonald. Poor ball drop. Got the side of the boot under pressure, and thankfully it did enough to roll over the boundary line. It could have been out on the full, but
I thought it was well disguised.
Nearly lost his footing.
The contact wasn't hard enough, was it?
Wow.
The faintest of touches. So boundary throw in right half forward for Sydney.
7.5 minutes in.
Up by 13. O'Brien wins it down. Parker got the kick straight into Hickey though. Ricochets back. Parker gets another go, flings it out in the Laird tackle. Waiting back. Worrell exits. Brave, rank and courageous there with Cunningham, who stays down the Swan. Adelaide keeps surging. Philthorpe thrusts it forward. Florent was waiting back. Hands it to Mills into the arc. Brave back with the flight. Mark wasn't taken by ball ace, but they have the numbers. Smith tumbles one to the outer side. Miller grabs and goes. Breaks away from Florent. Hands it to Fogarty. Sidesteps a tackler. Heads into the arc. Philthorpe was his target, but the kick was wayward and only finds Fox.
Thought Miller could have used his legs and kicked himself instead of handballing off to Fogarty, who then had to come back inside on his left foot.
Oh, the sly Fox. He passed it up. He made a mistake off his boot, kicked it out on the full, but Adelaide in turn through Miller. It wasn't a great kick inside forward 50. Swans clear it away. It's out on the eastern side. Smith's over the ball. Swans under pressure again. Smith was not a great kick. As he rounded, turning towards the eastern boundary, kicked it out on the full. So another opportunity for Sydney to relieve some of the pressure.
44,000 in the house. Adelaide's season on the line, and arguably Sydney's as well, with Melbourne to come next week.
We just spoke about how good Sydney have been getting numbers around the football. Adelaide just feel like they're all over at the moment, and now Sydney are just trying to hang on.
They have no right to be in this game. The Swans the better team throughout this contest, but this final term has been a surge from the Crows. Goulden's kick down the line, smashed by Worrell over the boundary line. It's going to be tossed back in front of the Foss Williams stand.
13 times Sydney have touched it, going at 31%.
O'Brien down straight to Goulden, gets the clearance only as far as Smith, waiting in defensive 50. Short pass to right half back.
They've pushed all their numbers behind, so when it goes forward, Adelaide now have the numbers behind the footy.
Dinked it to Saligo and now in turn to Worrell. Close to the boundary line. Right half back, they're kicking to the northern end, left of your radio dial. Worrell. Monster kick, down the wing, through O'Brien at the back. Fogarty pushes away from Lloyd, launches it towards Philthorpe. Spoil comes from Blakey. Excellent effort from the 100-gamer. And a minus score on the right-hand side. 2-goal game. 11-7-73 the Swans. Adelaide 9-7-61. Still 14 minutes to play.
Absolute goal-saving sport.
He was superb, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It's one of those you can always be tempted to give away that front-on contact free kick. He did it just superbly, Blakey.
Brings the ball in, plays on, kicks it out to the eastern side. Couple of grabs that they couldn't take of the Swans. Rankin swoops, gave it off to Laird, and then wide for Saligo. Oh, his kick was good. And McAdam slipped over and he stayed down too. He may have done something to his hamstring. Intercept mark to Blakey. Gave it off to Fox. Under pressure, cleared the area. Adelaide might come again. It's down to O'Brien off the left foot. Oh, that lucky forward ball. Found Pedler. Great intercept. Florent needed to and he did. Adelaide will come again though.
At the back, Worrell to Smith. Now Miller in some space behind centre wing. Heads on the 45 to the right half forward. Slipped through Murphy's hands. Gets another go, charging onto it. Gordon was quicker. Did it bounce off his boots over the boundary line? Yes!
It's a circus act.
Free kick. Murphy doesn't waste any time. Races around. Spears it into the pocket. Fogarty! Not the highest of hangers, but he stuck a knee in and reeled it in low to ground. Darcy Fogarty, 15 out, tight angle. A chance for 4 in a row to start this term.
A result of that Sydney player, I'm not sure who that was, he'd actually controlled that really well. It slipped on the ground. It came off the back of his foot and went over his head, and it ended up out on the full.
For a career-high 34-goal season, massive moment. Fogarty misses. The crowd rose as it came across the face, but it was the wrong side of the left-hand goalpost. 11-point game, Liz Walsh downstairs.
Yeah, Lockie Murphy seems to be in a bit of trouble for the Crows. He's sort of clutching at his shoulder, so I'll keep an eye on him. Jordan Dawson's also needed a bit of medical attention. He's now got a fair bit of strapping on his left calf.
So the Swans went short to Lloyd, and then he sends it out long at Johnson. Or rather, McDonald took a very good pressure mark and then dropped it in short. Swans taking some time off the clock now. Goulden with the ball. Left half back on the eastern side. He is just waiting and waiting. Now he's called the play on. Down the line he goes. He was looking for Warner, and the ball was a little too high, and Matt Crouch came across and knocked it over the boundary line. The Swans have it at left half forward on the eastern side. Adelaide pushing hard, trailing by 11 points. It was 32 at three-quarter time.
And that's on the other side of the ground of the interchange here, and one of their better defenders in Tom McCartan. Adelaide are in control, is sitting on the sideline.
Phil Thorpe wins it down. Warner front and square, hands it out to Goulden. Couple of fumbles with Crouch on his tail. Gets a third chance. Kicks around the body into the arc. Front position, Heaney. Spoilt away. Diving in. Worrell got it out to Keane. Exiting kick, the Swans have numbers. Rochelle launches, did enough to knock it down to Keys. Heavy tackle, play continues. Fogarty dropped it, holding the ball. Good tackle there.
I thought Hickey was going to get picked up for a sling tackle on Ben Keys, and he does not even have the footy on the replay and throws him to the ground.
So Warner has it attacking edge of the square. He can send them back inside the arc and buck the trend that's been entirely Adelaide's way. What a huge kick it is, all the way to the goal square. It falconed Keane. It spilled out to Parker. Flung a handball back when he could have had a shot. Keys is there, gives it to Miller. Here they come. Empty corridor, but Miller goes sideways. Schomburg run down. Heaney got him. The headline act for the Swans in Saturday night footy. Isaac Heaney may have just delivered a game-changing moment. They just needed to go, Adelaide.
What happened there, though? Yeah, we talked about Sydney setting up well defensively behind the footy. They sit that wicket keeper. Miller got the handball receive. He looked up, saw Sydney, and didn't want to kick the footy.
What a night it's been. Can Heaney cap it off with a 55-metre bomb? He shaped it. And a minus score on the right-hand side. Sydney's first score of the final term brings it back to a 12-point game, and Adelaide want to go straight up the corridor. Massive kick exiting from Hinge.
Falls over the back. Walker flips it out to Keys. Hand pass wide to McAdam. Running for him was Dawson. Dragged down by Lloyd from behind. And the umpire's going to pay a high tackle.
Wow.
Honestly, the Swans had a couple of gifts, you'd thought, over the time in the third quarter, but Adelaide has come back. And Dawson went long with his kick as he played on, got it within a metre of the line, rushed through for the minor score. 11 the margin in favour of the Swans. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
I've just had confirmation from Sydney that Papley's been subbed out of the game with general soreness, but as we know, he did seem to be having some issues with that left leg in the third quarter.
Through Rory Sloane, unfortunate, getting subbed out, and since Pedler has come on, it has been a real change for Adelaide in the midfield.
So Ryan Clark in for the Swans. 11 points the margin their way. Dangerous exit, kick from Warner. There was 4 Crows. Stevens was in the middle of them all. Loses control of the footy. Dawson kicks out and into the 50, but Walker was on the charge. He slides in and takes the mark. 40 out, 45-degree angle to the left.
Well, I think to your point, Jamo, Pedler, again, influential in that bit of play. Was outstanding. He had 6 final quarter possessions so far and been hugely influential. Just his hunt, his ability to put pressure on the opposition. He plays a really fierce brand of football.
The Texan at 33 kicks on the arc, starting right, not coming back, sits up on the behind line and off hands, rolls over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play, scoreboard pocket. Margin remains 11.
3-goal 4, so you need to be smart. You want to get it to the line. If you can't get the distance, there's 2 rush behinds in this. Just put it 20 metres out. All your big men will be back on the line ready to save.
Yep. Ball comes in from the throw-in. Walker, out of the ruck contest, just socketed it forward. It's on the ground now. Adelaide tackling hard. Swans over the ball. Fogarty has a hold, and the umpire says, give it to me. Right forward pocket for Adelaide. Critical moments in this game in the final quarter. Adelaide surging back into the contest. Ball over the boundary line now. And we'll get a throw in that scoreboard pocket. Adelaide has kicked 3 goals, 4 to 1 behind in the final quarter. 11 points the margin.
Full time at the Docklands. St Kilda winners by 33 points. The reigning premiers campaign is over. St Kilda back in finals for the first time since 2020. McLean wins it down, straight to Rowbottom. Kicks as he turns towards the arc, sits up in the air for a long period of time. Saligo brought it down. Dawson Crumbs gathers, kicks for home. It's across the face and through for a minor score on the left-hand side. 10 points the margin. Adelaide 9-10-64. Sydney 11-8-74.
3 goals, 5 this quarter to Adelaide. Another long point.
8 from 12.
Blakey to bring the ball in. Goes out to the eastern side after he plays on and kicks it long. Looked like Adelaide keen. Yep, was being held. Now he plays on quickly. Tried to dab it to Crouch. Got it on the bouncer eventually. Hand pass wide for Saligo. Dabs the ball inside 50. Looking for Fogarty. Got ushered underneath the ball and across the boundary line. Meanwhile, it's forced along the boundary line by Rankin, but he couldn't keep it in. We'll get a throw in, 25 around from the goal face, Adelaide. All the pressure in the final quarter has been Adelaide on Sydney. It's a reversal.
Just under 8 minutes remaining.
Toss back in, Walker front position. McLean slapped it down from behind. Moving it behind was Florin. Rochelle trying to barge through. Caught in the tackle. Ball up to come close to the boundary line, 10 out.
This is probably the area of the ground where the Sydney Swans defenders are on a high alert when you've got Rochelle and you've also got Rankin floating around. These D50 stoppages for Sydney.
10-point game. Walker wins it down. Dawson in traffic. Couldn't quite squeeze through on the behind line. Rankin tried to gather, but it's forced over. Another minor score. They're just peppering away the Crows. 9 points the margin. 9-11-65 plays 11-8-74. Still plenty of time.
Standing on the line was Blakey. Takes 2 bounces, he comes back into play. Hand passes it off to Cunningham, who goes out on the eastern side again. Front and square was Campbell. Hand passed it away though. Sydney have almost turned it over. It's fallen to Heaney off his left foot. Just goes down the line to gain some territory. Miller are back there. Had a couple of grabs. It was picked up by Smith. He went down the line. Close to the boundary and then finally over Campbell in a battle with Thilthorpe, who almost took a mark. So we'll get a throw in. Such an interesting contest. Now so much to play for both sides. This is what we thought would happen all night. And it's waited until the last quarter.
44,000 bustling with energy. Toss back in, centre wing. McLean wins it down. Beautiful tap. At the back, Lloyd rushed his kick. Down the line, Hinge floats high, slapped it straight to Goulden, looks inside the square, he's putting it in the path of Campbell, wrestling with Schomburg, these 2 young bulls. Schomburg wins out, Sockers towards centre wing, McAdam now on the chase with Blakey, it's rolling to the boundary line, then the Lizard slides in for the boundary throw in front of the benches.
Talk about the reversal in the game. Contested possession this quarter, Adelaide a +10, the ground ball gets +6 as well in favour of the Crows. That's an area where they got absolutely smashed by Sydney in the first 3 quarters of this game, and they have flipped this contest on its head.
Isaac Heaney now gone to Jordan Dawson.
Ball comes back in. Wasn't a great throw from the boundary umpire. As it bounced up from McLean, who just thumped it forward. Worrell side-footed it. Adelaide with an opportunity through Smith, got a hand pass forward. They knock it wide. Coming through, interesting hand pass. Still play on. Smith clears the area for Adelaide. Rochelli's dropped what he could have taken. Bounces back up to Walker. Centre of the ground. Taylor Walker with an opportunity. Thinks about it. Not called the play on. Waits for somebody deep. Now he dodges around the man on the mark and goes with his left foot. It's very high. Inside forward 50. Comes to the front. Rankin slips it to Rochelli. And he's pulled down in a tackle by Warner. Well done by the Sydney player. The umpire says, we'll ball it up. Still inside 50 for Adelaide.
I think Tex confused himself then.
I think so.
Didn't really know what to do with it.
If he didn't want to kick it like that was the worst kick.
Yeah,
put
it was.
Inside 50.
McLean down to Florent. Rushes the clearance, a tumbler towards the broadcast wing. Francis locked up with ball A's, enables Smith to charge through. Enters into the arc. Walker caught in a sandwich in the air. Fisted towards Rankin, left it behind. He's caught high. Play continues. Keys to Thilthorpe, rushes the kick behind. Whistle coming back. Swans free kick. It's going to Florent. Rankin was absolutely collected. Margin remains at 9. Sydney ball, defensive 50.
Still plenty of time. We've crossed 22 minutes in this last quarter. Down the line goes the kick. Through hands and over the back. And the big Irishman Keane pulled the ground by Hickey.
What was the Florent free kick for?
I think they said high for that as well.
So both sides have been involved in 5 games this season, decided by under 10 points. Swans have won 3, lost 2. Ball down to Rankin. Surely it was taken high that time as he came out to meet the ball as it scrubbed forward. Inside 50 with his kick. A beauty it was too. He found Murphy in some space. 40 out, 45-degree angle. Probably the kick of his life for Murphy.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it's an understatement. He must kick this goal to get within at least one scoring shot. They've missed a few opportunities. Fogarty missed one directly in front. They've had some rush behinds. He must kick this goal, Lockie Murphy.
Murphy comes in, sprays it, hooks it, and it's not going to be a score at all. It's out in the forward pocket, in the scoreboard pocket. Adelaide peppering 3 goals, 6 to the one behind of Sydney.
He's better off going top of the goal square
well,
there.
Again, that'd just be smarter too.
Yep.
And actually the kick to Murphy was actually a cracker. I thought he could have gone to Jordan Dawson.
Polish and composure has been the Crows' issue in close games. Boundary throw in high in the air, floated and cleared the rucks in the end. Warner at the back exits. Out to the outer wing rather. Crows have numbers, Miller at the back. Caught in the tackle, Clark got him to ground the sub. Ball up to come, just wide of the logo.
How smart a kick was out by Chad Warner. He wasn't going for distance. It was almost just kick it as high as you possibly could to allow numbers to get around it and not go to the boundary and give away a free.
Ball up close to the boundary line. Hickey wins it down. Slipped through the hands of Dawson. He becomes the tackler. Pulled down his opponent, Wicks. They keep fighting for it. Goulden's in amongst it, piling on a couple of Crows and rips it out as well. His kick smothered. Head over the footy. Worrell left it behind. Pedler gets one out. Shoveled it towards Saligo, who blind turned away from his opponent. Kicks down the line. Fogarty soars, slips through his hands. Rankin at the back, leaves it for McCartan to gather. No pressure. Thankfully his handball was poor. And over the boundary line. And we toss back in front of the Jack Oatey stand. 9-point lead to Sydney. 3 minutes to play.
Adelaide's, as I said, been involved in 5 of these matches decided by under 10 points. They've only won once. Off hands it came to Murphy. Off the ruck contest down to half forward. Florent called the play on. He thought he'd taken the mark. He dropped it now. Rankin with a head pass over his head. Rochelli for goal. Away to the left. Boy, that was an opportunity for Adelaide. 8-point game. 11-8-74, Sydney 9-11-65 Adelaide.
It's easy up here in the commentary box, but he already had more time there, Rochelli.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just rushed that kick.
3 goals, 17-9 inside 50s Adelaide's way this quarter.
And those 7 behinds, the last 7 scoring shots for Adelaide. The tale of last week, the tale of all their close games, inaccuracy. Keane tried to sidestep a couple from the exit of Sydney and was caught by Clark in the tackle, holding the ball right half back. They're running out of time, Adelaide. The season is on the line. Clark, long down the broadcast wing. Launching, McLean, got it down to Heaney. Hospital handball to Hayward, and Miller caught him high in the tackle. Free kick in front of the benches, kills a bit more time.
Everyone's down on the boundary with signs in the air.
That's where Adelaide need to man up here. Don't give them any free targets where they can chip the ball around and milk time off the clock like this.
Yeah.
Gone backwards, Hayward.
One each. Has to be one each, doesn't it?
Mills takes his time, drives it down the line. McAdam comes across. Thought he had the pass on option there to Campbell, but it's chopped off by McAdam, knocked it out of bounds.
Got to roll the dice here now, Adelaide. Rip through the stoppage, get momentum going forward.
John Longmire on the boundary.
Keep your eye on Keys here.
So the ball comes back into play. Tap down, there's Keys, fighting hard. Ball still on the ground though. Pedler put his head down, tried to march through. Clark met him. Ball caught under Clark. Umpire call play on. Keys with a hand pass out. Dawson down the line with his kick. Cunningham couldn't get there. Through come Fogarty. Fogarty now got the hand pass out. Long kick by McAdam. Sydney have their wicket keeper back there. Rochelle does well. It was 2-on-1, and Josh Rochelle has taken it off the pack and just slid it through from 10 metres. 2 for Rochelle. Sydney at 11-8-74. Their lead has been cut to 2 points. Adelaide 10-12-72. 28 minutes into the final quarter. What a cracker of a finish by Adelaide.
We're just looking at the replay. Again, the kick from McAdam inside 50 had enough height on the kick to allow the Sydney Swans spare defender to become almost irrelevant. And then Rochelle, that was unbelievable.
3-on-1, he wins that.
That was phenomenal.
1 minute 40 remaining. 2 points the difference. You have to go into your positions here. Watch players go absolutely everywhere.
Ecstasy at the Adelaide Oval. There is no margin for error. In the middle, Hickey wins it down, but the skipper Dawson gathers, spears it into the arc. Murphy is target, slips through his hands. Florin at the back, fumbled. Murphy gathered, squares it up. It's heading in the park. Put down McAdam, charging out of the goal square, put it down, but the shank exit. They rushed it, Sydney, trying to get it out of defensive 50, and Campbell has handed it back to Adelaide in the dying stages.
Shane McAdam has dropped a chess mark. Ben Keys has the football.
Ben Keys, 30 out, opens the angle, snaps on the left. He's the hero!
Oh no!
Point. Hit the post.
Go. Look at this.
Ben Keys is saluting with the front row, but Sydney have the ball. It's hit the post.
There's still 3 players, Adelaide out the other side, celebrating while the players coming down here.
1 point game, a minute on the clock, and Adelaide thinks it's over, but Sydney are in front. Can you believe it? The season is on the line. Heaney has it right half back, launches to right half forward. Packer waits. O'Brien at the back, put down an intercept mark. Boundary throwing to come. Dying stages, 1 point game.
This is a contest now for the ball to come in. Adelaide just throwing players forward, Sydney throwing players back. Can they get it away from the contest? O'Brien just knocked it down. Goulden got it, sent it inside 50. Ball ace had it, lost it. Sydney will get an opportunity to score. No, they won't. It'll be a free kick to Adelaide. Ball ace taken high. Immediately the hand pass out to Michael Annie. He'll clear the 50. They need it further than that. Ball comes off the pack. Hickey puts it back inside 50 for Sydney. Not much time now. Michael Annie hits it. Smith takes it away. Dragged to ground by Rowbottom, forces a ball up 30 out, straight in front. But it's at the wrong end of the ground for the Crows. Sydney clinging to a 1-point lead.
It's all or nothing from here. O'Brien takes it out of the ruck, a fumble. Hinge tried to charge through. Kick from Laird, ricochets off a couple of bodies. Schomburg becomes the tackler. McAdam tunnel balls it straight to Gordon, who kicks it back where it came from. Hinge out to the broadcast wing. There's no one there, and the siren will beat them. Sydney hang on. Too little, too late for Adelaide. Their season ends with an emphatic victory on the road for the Swans. Sydney in the box seat for finals with a 1-point win in a thriller.
Shake down the thunder from the sky. Whether the odds be great or small, Swans will go in and win overall. While our loyal Swans are marching onwards to victory.
Heartbreak for the barnstorming Crows. Sydney were the better team for the majority of the night, and they nearly let it slip. But finals are well and truly in their sights. 11-8-74 to 10-3, 13-73. 3 to Heaney, 2 to McLean. Singles to McDonald, Hayward, Francis, Patley, Wicks and Campbell. John Longmire's men get it done at the death. Adelaide's campaign is over.
Cheer, cheer the red and the white. Honour the name by day and by night. Lift that noble banner high. Shake down the thunder from the sky. Whether the odds be great or small, Swans will go in and win overall. While our loyal Swans are marching onwards to victory.
The Crows look like they pulled off the grandest of heists. Ben Keys' snap curling and just clipping the padding on its way through. Sydney wasted no time as Adelaide thought they'd wrapped it up. And in the end, that behind the difference. Sydney winners by a point. Finals not quite locked in with Melbourne to come next weekend, but they look well and truly like the grand finalists of last year. Congratulations to the Swans on the road. And for the 44,000 in attendance, they'll leave frustrated that it took 3 quarters of footy before the Crows put their hands up. Rod Jamieson, Josh Franco, break it down for us.
Well, Sydney have been here 12 times. They've won now 7. They actually enjoyed coming to play at Adelaide, and they've just played it so well for 3 quarters. But when you have a look at this last quarter, it's 96 disposals to 58, 64% efficiency versus 52. All your contested, everything you've been talking about, Josh, just insanely all favoured in that 1 quarter from Adelaide, and yet 4-8. And there'll be things, again, that we've spoken about in that last quarter from up here that I would have thought maybe 3 or 4 kicks should have gone to different areas just to make it different as opposed to deep on the line. And I guarantee you, the coach will pull up that. Ben Keys thinks he's kicked it. There's 4 Adelaide blokes on the 50-metre line up against the fence celebrating, while Sydney are actually running along this side and bringing the football across the wing. It's insane.
And that was the only time in the last quarter they brought the ball out this side of the ground. They were smart. They knew what had happened, so they just took what was in front of them.
Well, the game came alive in that last quarter, didn't it? Up until 3-quarter time, we spoke about it at the half-time break at 3-quarter time. It was Sydney by how much. They dominated field position, inside 50s, contested possessions, ground ball gets, everything. And then all of a sudden, Adelaide found that spark. And we spoke about it during that final term where the game was just flipped on its head. And just to highlight some of those numbers, the contested ball in the last quarter, Adelaide were plus 14. In ground ball gets, they were plus 10. Inside 50s, they were plus 7. So it was 19-12 inside 50s for 12 scoring shots. And I think in the end, as you said, Jamo, Adelaide will be ruining their chances. We saw Fogarty miss that one directly in front of goal, who's normally a beautiful kick. Obviously, the McAdam one where he drops a chest mark, which he would take 99 times out of 100. Ben Keys, I copped that. That's okay. Pretty tough shot, tough angle. The Lockie Murphy one where he tries to have a shot on goal was never going to make the distance. It fell short. So they butchered it a few times in terms of their approach when they got inside 50 or they were just outside 50. And in the end, they had their chances to win it, but couldn't get over the line.
with you for the next 35 minutes. If you do want to get in touch with us, the text line 0437 774 774. There are now 3 teams chasing the final 2 spots in the 8 after St Kilda's victory over Geelong tonight. It is Sydney in 7th on 50 points, GWS in 8th on 48, and the Western Bulldogs a game behind in 44 with a game still to play tomorrow and then obviously a game to come next weekend. So the Swans, the Giants and the Bulldogs battling for the last few spots as Adelaide and Geelong bow out of the 2023 season. A lot to dissect. Where would you like to start, Sydney or Adelaide?
Oh, look, I don't think you got 30 minutes is not going to be enough, actually, to do it, I have to say. But it's interesting to watch both teams. They're taking a long time. This is Adelaide's last home game of the season before they go to Perth next week to take on West Coast. Touching a couple of moments. The players quite intimate, particularly with Dawson, who spent a lot of time at Sydney, but obviously Don Pike, who knows a lot of these players too. So it was good to see them go over. And just watching Sam Jacobs, who is an MC at the ground, with Mariana Rancic, who was a AFLW player she just retired last year, interviewing Matthew Nicks, and just how despondent he looked on the screen and how disappointed he must be after the year we had. And we spoke about how many games, 12 games.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
12 games they've lost, and 10 of them now are under 26. And what did you say, Crossy? Under 10 points?
Under 10 points, 1 win, 5 losses.
And that's
and
the
four, and well, actually now all 5 losses have been to sides in the top 8, but 4 of the losses were to the top 4. 2 to Collingwood, 1 to Melbourne, 1 to Brisbane.
And I guess the sad part for Adelaide, as noble as they've been throughout the course of this season, and the improvement that we've seen, it's so hard to get in these positions. And again, you talk about ruining those opportunities tonight, but the Collingwood losses, Melbourne lost, Brisbane last week, Giants round 1, you win one of them, all of a sudden they're still in the mix.
The overall numbers when you go on both sides are actually really close in terms of where it is. So, and the 1 point probably depicts the outcome, but that last quarter, we touched on it. Remember I said like the last game last week, Sydney have won the last 4 or 5, but they're just hanging in there. And you only have to do to win, and they've been able to do that. They kicked 1 behind in that last quarter to Adelaide 4-8. So they got smashed in that quarter. But you got to go through it, you experience it, you learn from it. Sydney will look about how they actually kicked a few things out on the full or could have done things better as well. So you're always looking to learn.
Swans winners by a point. 11-8-74 to Adelaide's 10-13-73. Let's head into the rooms with Liz Walsh. I'm just not quite getting you there, Liz. We'll try and get back in a moment. Heaney with 3, McLean with 2 in the end, singles to McDonald, Hayward, Francis, Papley, Wicks and Campbell. Meanwhile for the Crows, 2 to Walker, Rochelle, singles to Murphy, Crouch, Rankin, McAdam, Schomburg and Miller.
This will be for Paul Seedsman. That's why they're lining up.
Guard of honour.
So we're waiting for Paul Seedsman to go off the ground.
Guard of honour for the Crows, as Shamo mentioned, their final home game with a dead rubber now against the West Coast Eagles next weekend in Perth.
But you just want to finish off, don't you? And, certainly you look at West Coast list and the amount of players that have retired over there this year, so they would want to make sure that they finish off and recognise those. But Paul Season the last 2 years has been an incredible battle for him in terms of, and everyone knows where the court case is at the moment, and there's 200 or 300 past players that are in this position in the AFL and how touch it is with concussion. When he was flying, he was up and about. When he came to Collingwood,
he just started to hit his peak.
They got his body. They worked so hard on his body. He had hamstring problems, lower back problems, and he really went to work and did some core, and then he just came back. And you talk about Jordan Dawson's kick and how easy he looks. Like Seeds was kicking him from 60 out on the run or just off 2 steps. So, congratulations, and hopefully everything works out for him in the coming years and well beyond.
The first heartbreaking text has come through, 0437 774 774. A Crows fan says, Adelaide were absolutely robbed. This house is a prison. So imagine there's a fair bit of emotion spreading across South Australia and the country tonight for those Crows fans who were really hoping they could just sneak in. I mean, everything was there for them in terms of the matchups. I think Adelaide, despite being the lowest ranked side heading into this round, probably had the best fixture to try and creep in, but wasn't meant to be. And you touched on the close finishes, Josh, and how it's a little bit of the same old story. it's inaccuracy in the dying stages. It's composure with your entries. I mean, they had a run of 7 behinds there to close out the game at 8 in the end with the Ben Keys miss. It's a little frustrating. We've talked a lot about how much they've improved, and obviously this year has been a success on that. But the pressure heading into 2024, they cannot afford to make mistakes like this heading into that year.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of what I was thinking about as well, and getting at when we talk about how they assess the season. Now, I know obviously the loss is raw tonight. They've still got a game to go in the season, albeit West Coast over in Perth. But, you know, when you sit down and reflect, and having been at Gold Coast, albeit Gold Coast who have never played finals, when they show sort of signs of improvement, they don't make finals, they sit there and go, yep, we're on the right track, we're happy with the season, we're satisfied that we're on the right track. Adelaide, I dare say, at the start of the year, if you had said they'd be playing round 22 to keep their finals hope alive, and I don't know, but you probably go, that's not a bad result. You would take that. But when you're in the position where they have been with those close losses, and even tonight, they win that game, their finals chances are still alive. I reckon they'd be really, really deflated because, as you said, come the end of the season, everyone starts from zero again, and it's such a hard mountain to climb to get even to this point as they were, and nothing's a given in this competition.
I think your comment, Aaron, is valid, but I think every year the pressure is still there. So Adelaide have still got a long way to go here at the moment. Yes, they've signed Taylor Walker for another year and Rory Sloane for another year. Talk about Brodie Smith, Rory Laird. These guys are getting to the tail end. If they're only 12 months away from possibly finishing up 2 of the 4, definitely, they've actually got to replace them, and they've got to replenish them and bring in new players, and they're going to bring in more talent. So respectfully, if they're players that by form that should be in the side, you'll pick them and play them. But you've then got to introduce. Now, if they can't find those players, you go another year, you might not get to where you want to be, and then all of a sudden you go to the draft and you're still back playing a young group. So I think the experience of winning them, like a Collingwood, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
They're the masters of close games
played
now.
Yeah, but they've played a season and a half, or when you go average games played, they're another year or 2 years games. That's 40 more 50 games that they've actually played. So they just know how to do it and go about it.
The part that worries me is it's now a 6th campaign without finals, and understandably only 4 of them under Nicks. But I'm just worried about that pressure because next year it's all on the line for Adelaide. They absolutely must play finals, if not be, at least 5th, 6th, and a team that can contend. And it's all there for them. And I'm just worried that with a younger list that obviously is still developing and has shown some great signs, that's a lot of pressure in a 2-team town.
But that's always been the pressure here from both Adelaide and Port Adelaide. That's unfortunate. You talk to anyone in the land about the pressure through here. It's great to have the supporter groups that both clubs do here, but the magnification, the fishbowl as to what it is uniquely different. You speak to people out of Perth, it is similar but not the same. And that's why players either leave the club or don't want to come here, because it is a big battle to be able to cope with that. And they ultimately just want anonymity and get away and go and play football somewhere else. You got 10 teams in Melbourne. We've got 2 here. Now, it's insane. When I was on the board, stepped down earlier this year, we were getting 65 to 75 requests for interviews per week. That is insane. What do you want to talk about? So that's just one component of it. But it's great to have that expectation, and everyone wants to win them. They're just really hard to do.
So where does Adelaide... Where's their sort of missing link at the moment?
Jump in. I'm not defending him, by the way. I'm not defending him.
Well, it's such a hard debate because I don't want to absolutely pile on, because it has been an improvement this year. They've accomplished so much. It's just the what could have been.
Yeah, there's
been so many of those.
Totally. Well, you sort of jump ahead, isn't it? Because it's almost where, Hawthorn jumped in, and they didn't. That's sort of their first one that no one expected them to win.
2008?
8, was it 7 or 8? Yeah. And then look what they did after that. And it's just that exposure.
And then even to your point, will Taylor Walker have the year he's had next year? So who kicks the goals from? Has Darcy Fogarty come on as we'd hoped? And then you look at their midfield. I still think that they're an A grader short in their midfield. So do they have room in their cap to go out and buy one? I don't know.
Or is the improvement there from one of those younger players that are coming through? So
when you have a look at Sydney's, they have got some serious jets in their side. You go through like Chad Warner. I thought Hayden McLean and McDonald tonight were great. But then you go through Ryan Clark. Heaney, he's still 27. He's got a truckload of footy. James Rowbottom, Hayward, Florent. Some of these guys are still only 25, 26 or younger. And the speed that, though, I mean, Errol Goulden's 21 and played 64 games already.
The incredible part about that is you also have like Tom Papley, who's seeing so many centre bounce appearances. Like the depth is tremendous that they can. John Longmire is an envious problem, I guess, that there's so many players you could use, and they're probably not set in stone what their big three is.
But I think you're answering your own question, because the more you play, you've got 2 years on. Papley predominantly is playing forward. He's now playing on a wing and playing in the middle. Just time and experience will allow you to do that, and you can expose those players. So I think that's where you're going to say a Josh Rochelli, he's spending more time forward. He might throw him in the middle or put him on a wing. In 2 years' time, he could be an absolute superstar in the middle of the ground. But he's going to take time.
Absolutely.
Let's head down into the rooms with Liz Walsh. With Sydney winners by a point here at the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. I'm here with Errol Goulden. Now, Errol, we're having a few technical difficulties here. That's a bit better. So we missed being able to detail that song. So can you just talk us through what it was like coming into the rooms then? You didn't seem all that excited. It was almost just relief.
Yeah, I think we probably had to remind ourselves just after that team song in the meeting there that we've come down and beat Adelaide in Adelaide, who are, I think they've lost one game at home this year. So yeah, obviously a really disappointing last quarter, but it's a big scalp for us, and we've got a lot to work on, but a win's a win.
The winning streak now extends to 6 games. That's actually really good form heading into finals, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think this year we've been a bit up and down, obviously, and would have liked to win a few more games than what we have. But the past month and a half we've probably been finding a bit of form, and Melbourne next week. Let's go.
The last 5 games you've won by an average of 13 points. You were up by 32 points at three-quarter time, so it looked like you were going to break that streak there, but you didn't. Talk me through that last quarter. It was intense what the Crows threw at you, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They got their contest spot on in the last, and got a run on, and the crowd got up and about, and we made some pretty bad mistakes, and just lost the contest overall as well, which we did pretty well for 3 quarters. So a lot to work on, but we got the win, and we'll go home and review it, and look forward to Melbourne next week.
Let's head up to our experts. We've got Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Yeah, Errol, well done. Congratulations. Rod Jamieson here. You spoke about how difficult it is to come to Adelaide. If I talk about your team at the moment, unusually you've lost 4 at home and drawn 1 at home. It's normally so difficult to win. So to come here and Sydney play so well, true credit to yourselves for those first 3 quarters particularly.
Yeah, definitely. I think our first quarter and a half was really good, and we knew it would be important to start well here. As I mentioned before, when the crowd gets up and about, it's one of the hardest places to play away from home. So I think obviously we were disappointing last quarter, as I said, but had to admit a win's a win.
Yeah, well, even with the conditions, tell us how hard they were at the start of the game, particularly slippery, but you looked a lot cleaner and then particularly defended very well.
Yeah, it's pretty slippery. It's obviously been raining a fair bit the past few days, and for probably 3 quarters of the game there was a bit of drizzle, so it was pretty slippery out there, and obviously a very contested and high pressure game, and they're one of the best pressure teams in the comp, but so are we, so we knew that would be a big part of the game, and good result in the end.
And Errol, congratulations on your game and the Swannies wins tonight, but could you just talk us through, obviously you did your homework on Adelaide, Callum Mills went to Jordan Dawson, so you clearly identified that he was a pretty dangerous player coming into this contest.
Yeah, absolutely. We know how good of a player Dorso is, and obviously their captain as well. And he's having an amazing year. So we knew that it would be important for Millsy to nullify him as much as he could. And I thought for most of the night Millsy did an exceptional job. So tick.
And just another question as well before I hand over to Aaron. Having spent 4 years at Sydney, can you just give the listeners a bit of an insight into John Longmire and his, I guess, unique ability to get the Sydney Swans playing the brand of footy they do?
Yeah, he's an amazing coach. I think you'll hear us talk a lot about the connection we have with him off field as well, which shows through on game day. We all want to go in as hard as we can for him and get the result for Horse, and his ability to adapt playing styles during the game, and tell us what we need at that time is massive, and all of our coaching staff is really good, and we love playing for him week in, week out, so happy to get the win for Horse.
Errol Goulden's our guest after Sydney's thrilling 1-point win at the Adelaide Oval. Errol, it's Aaron Bryans here in the ABC Sport Box. I want to talk a bit about your midfield. It's incredibly versatile, but just so dynamic as well. I mean, this is a side that is ranked second last for conceding first possession, but you still manage to dominate clearances. Can you tell us a bit about the mindset of what Horse has kind of instilled in this midfield group?
Yeah, I think we're a pretty young group, as you probably notice, and we've got a lot of numbers that go through there. And I think the biggest thing for us is just contest and focusing on that. And we know when we can get our contest right and crack in, that we'll go okay. Yeah, as you mentioned, we're not a massive winning hit-out team or first possession team, but we scrap pretty hard. And yeah, it's definitely something we've had to work on. Though our clearance numbers haven't been great this year, so we'll keep working and yeah, hopefully get it done against Melbourne next week.
And every player seems to have almost that secondary role when they're not in the middle. Can you tell us a bit about the accountability of being able to move around the ground and take turns at the coalface?
Yeah, we spin the wheels a fair bit. We've always got forwards like Paps Haynes that go through there, and then myself, who spends most of my time out in the wing but can roll through there as well. I think that's really important to have lots of numbers go through there and keep our run going. So yeah, it's obviously got a lot of numbers that go through there, and yeah, it's enjoyable to spin the wheels.
Hey Errol, you're coming to Adelaide. You've played here 12 times. You've won 7, and you played Richmond in Gather Round earlier this year and beat them by 44 points. So there's something about Adelaide Oval that you guys like.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've played here about 4 times. We won 2 and lost 2. But yeah, we love coming down here, and we know that the crowd's always going to play a massive part in it. So we love kind of coming in here and having our back against the wall and really providing energy for one another. And yeah, another great result here tonight.
Errol, Neil Cross, just a quick one about your background through Uni of New South Wales and eastern suburbs. What was that like in terms of the juniors and how they work in Sydney in order to get you to where you are?
Yeah, it played a massive role. I think the Swans Academy obviously played a massive role as well. I've joined the academy when I was 10 years old, and they pretty much grew me all the way through to when I got drafted to play AFL footy. So they played a massive part in it, as you mentioned, UNSW as well. Probably just the connection and flexibility to be able to do playing club footy and then playing the academy games and have opportunities to play in the state league and stuff like that with the Swans reserves was great. So played a massive role in my development for sure.
Errol, thank you so much for your time. Go enjoy the win and best of luck against the D's next weekend.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Great to hear from Errol Gordon, one of the rising stars. I mean, he's definitely the most improved player this year. 30 disposals in the end to his name. Certainly one of the driving forces for the Swans this year. 1-point winners in the end. Looked like they were comfortably set to get over the line. 32 points was the margin at three-quarter time. Adelaide came storming home, but the Swans' almost maturity in the dying stages was enough to help them hang on. Unfortunately, we did miss the song live, but we can turn it around for you. So let's head back down into the Swans' room and hear them celebrate. Not quite all in yet. They've still got a big game to come next weekend. As we've touched on, 3 teams fighting for the last 2 spots, and a loss to Melbourne could expose Sydney still. But, the reigning premiers are out in Geelong, and the grand finalists in Sydney are still in the hunt, and their best is still to come. I think this is a side that at times have completely, fallen off a cliff throughout the year, and then other times have gone on really nice runs, and now 6 in a row heading into a finals campaign is pretty exciting.
It's awesome, and I think, again, if you look at Sydney and the changing of the guard, it reminds me a little bit of Port Adelaide, where, the Boaks and the Wines have been the one that the guys from Port Adelaide that have done the heavy lifting. Now it's the Butters and the Rosies and those types of players. Sydney a little bit the same. You had Kennedy, Parker, Hanbury, Kieran Jack, those sorts of guys. Now it's these new young bloods coming through that have speed, and we talk obviously just to Errol there in terms of what they focus on, their contested ball, their ability to close space and time on the opposition. They're outstanding, and even to highlight that tonight, Parker I think only had 12 disposals for the game. Normally he's a big contributor, doesn't have to now. They've got the other Jets to carry the workload. So they're in a good spot. And again, it highlights, I guess, the terrific job that John Longmire does, but also their head of recruiting, Kinnear Beatson. And I think it also shows how important these academies are for these non-footballing traditional AFL states.
Well, that's right. And that's the way it should be, isn't it? Like, in order to have those sides, look, nobody expects, although some of the Melbourne or the Victorian clubs go on about it, but nobody expects them, the non-Victorian clubs, to go from strength to strength to strength and be in the finals every year. But you've got to allow for the fact that they are not traditional Australian football states in Queensland and New South Wales, and they've got to have some sort of help to develop their players.
Well, I think the Sydney Academy, from what I'm led to be, is I mean, Errol said then he was in there, he's 10 years old, and I think the rules changed because they were, it was almost like a factory, and they were actually, and no one knew that were actually happening. And then all of a sudden, and then they draft these kids and they go, I don't even know who they are, and they get picked up really late. And
yeah.
Look at
it's like something out of Brave New World. There's just a production line going through.
Yeah.
Well, I know Isaac Heaney, he was found in Newcastle, and you would have never, ever heard about him again unless he was identified and brought down to the Swans Academy and developed in the Swans Academy. Now he's a superstar of the competition. So you're right, Crossy. I think they're critical for these non-traditional AFL states, but there probably come a point where they've got to... No.
I was having a look at their list earlier today, and I mean, I'm not quite sure. Joel Armity's done a hamstring. He's another week or two. Justin McInerney's done a calf. So he's another week or two.
He's close, I think, yeah.
So in terms of you getting their team better or filling roles, I mean, you've taken Buddy out of there. He's not going to play because of his calf and retired. Paddy McCartan's given it away, so good luck to him. Sam Reid, they're the one... I used to really enjoy him. I mean, he's 31. He's done for the year anyway, but there's a couple still to come in that could help and make the team better.
They're making do with, and I've got to mention Tom Hickey because he came through the college that I went to in Brisbane. He came through our own college and the junior football club Morningside. So he came through that pathway. He's been through Gold Coast, St Kilda, West Coast, and now he's found a path to Sydney. And talk about a journey. I mean, he just does the job.
And the Swans are one of the clubs well and truly in the hunt for Brodie Grundy. As a result, he's 32 years of age, Tom Hickey, so he's not going to be there forever, and they needed a solution to that. But yeah, the depth is there, I think, for Sydney, and that's the reason why they played in the grand final last year. It's just, for some odd reason, it didn't click for a large majority of the year. I'm not sure if it was the mental scars of a big blowout loss on the big stage, but 6 in a row now. I mean, we've seen the highs and lows in one night of Sydney. That final quarter was disappointing, but for most of the night, they showed exactly what they can do. Do you have a belief that they can do any damage in September?
I think they can do some damage. It's just where they're possibly going to end up. I haven't really followed I mean, they're struggling at home. They've won away...
Which is odd for them.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, they went to Geelong and got belted by 93 points. That's incredible for a side that is normally a bit hardened like we saw tonight. So they won at Marvel against the Kangaroos only by 3 points. So when you look back over the year, and we were touching on their last 5, now 6 games that they've won, they've actually beaten some okay teams, but they've just limped across the line. So, I mean, if you can do that and take the wins with you, that's what it's about, isn't it? Bank the points.
Total of 12 points in their losses to Collingwood, Melbourne and Brisbane.
So some highs and lows across the campaign for the Swans, but albeit they're staring down another finals campaign if they can beat Melbourne next weekend. Sydney winners by a point in a thrilling finish here at the Adelaide Oval, 11-8-74 to 10-13-73. It keeps the Swans in the hunt, but it ends Adelaide's finals hopes. Let's check in and see how they're feeling. Liz Walsh is down in the Crows camp.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm here with Rory Laird. Rory, that was just a heartbreaking loss. A great comeback in that last quarter, but just not quite enough.
No, it's the first 3 quarters obviously weren't up to standard, and what we've been doing the past few weeks wasn't a good correlation into what we're doing in those first 3. So they were beating us around the ball and getting some pressure on our backs. So we flipped that in the fourth, pleasingly, but wasn't enough.
What was Matthew Nix's message after the game?
Pretty much along those lines. This game gives you nothing. It's too hard, and against quality opposition like Sydney, who are playing some fantastic football, we weren't up to the challenge early on, and we're on the back foot. And against good sides like that, we're good enough that we don't give up, and we actually put in and always go for the fourth. But it's too much against these good teams, and you showed tonight how close it can be.
And it seems like the season is now done, but off to face West Coast next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive game. We played there last year. It was actually my 200th. It was Josh Kennedy's last game, and there was a 50,000 plus West Coast supporters, and they're pretty passionate over there. So they've got some champions of their club retiring, and it's going to be a hot game.
Any update on Rory Sloane? He got subbed out with an eye injury. Have you seen him at all?
No, I haven't seen him at all. I heard it at half time, but I didn't see him on the bench or in the rooms. I'm not sure if he's going to get checked out properly or what's going on there. So I think we'll just have to wait and see with him, but obviously pretty severe in terms of the injury.
Let's head up to our experts. We've got Rod Jamieson and Josh Franco.
Yeah, Rory, Rod Jamieson, you spoke about the first three quarters, so we'll skip over that. But I thought the exposure tonight to the young group, they've been so good. The cohesion up until now, it's been a long season, but it was another good learning as to the pressure that Sydney applied for particularly those first three quarters.
Yeah, mate, it's going to put us in a really good spot in terms of, next year moving on. And I think you're sort of seeing these high-pressure games and tonight and last week, when you can't execute the fundamentals, and especially tonight when it's a bit slippery, our ball tape was a little bit off in the first three quarters, and they were able to get forward pressure. So our boys will learn from it, and I think we've learned from a fair few games this year, the Collingwood games, the Melbourne games, the Brisbane games. So, we're doing a lot of things right, but obviously it's a really disappointing night.
Rory, Aaron Bryant's here. We're debating the balance at the moment between praising you for the tremendous improvement you've had this year, but also the frustration of what could have been. Can you tell us a bit about how you and the club are feeling mentally, knowing that you're not playing finals when you had a couple of chances to get there?
Yeah, mate, it's obviously really frustrating, and especially, for some of us older blokes that have been there and want to experience finals. And I think it would have been fantastic for our young group to get one in, or you never know with us this year. That's the thing, which is probably the most disappointing, is if we actually had an opportunity to get in there, we've shown against these top tier teams, the top four, that we can actually beat them or get really close to beating them. So that's probably the most disappointing part, but you've got to look at it at the other foot as well. There's some really strong showings and some development in our young players, but as I said before, overall it's really disappointing.
So when you reflect on the year as a whole, it's a tick?
Oh, I don't know. It's sort of a hard question to ask that one. Like, I'd say finals would have been, but at the same time, you've got to look at the positives from it as well. But, right on the edge there, I'm not too sure.
Does it put you under a bit of pressure heading into next year, that it feels like that's the year for you to really take that next step?
Oh, I'd say definitely. I think all of us were expecting it this year and wanting to and striving to get there this year. And, if you see another, off-season and a pre-season into these young fellas and, the experience that we've gained this year and the learnings, then we can obviously take the next step, and that would definitely be the goal.
Rory, thank you so much for your time and your honesty in what would be a deflating moment for the club. Best of luck against West Coast. Hopefully you can round up the season with a nice win on the road.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have Rory Laird after the 1 point loss for the Crows, 11-8-74 to 10-13-73, the final scoreline. So Adelaide's season over. Finals now out of the question, and Sydney in the hunt. It's a really tough one. As I mentioned, we've debated it across the night, but I think Rory Laird summarised it pretty well. That there's moments where you'd be really pleased with what they've put out there, and also understandably they'd understand what could have been. So they'll look ahead to next year. Hopefully there are improvements there.
And I think the disappointing thing as well, and you could hear it in Laddie's voice, is that I think that Adelaide were one of those sides that could have done some damage if they had got there. They've got the brand and the way they played and executed when they were on. They had the game to actually take it up to some of these sides in the final eight.
Technically, they've finished with 3 wins and 5 losses against the top four. Oh, sorry, 3 wins and 4 losses against the top 4. They're better performed technically than the other team in the comp.
Well, certainly the respect in which they go at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I think is one part of it. Obviously, you've got to defend, but when you think that they can get opened up for 3 quarters and then play an electrifying quarter like that and get back into the game and hold one of the best defensive teams in the competition, and they kick 4-8 to them 1 behind, like, that's the respect. But you've just got to start winning, and you've got to get on the field. You just got to stop saying we're a young side now. You've got to get...
Yeah, the excuses are gone. This is it. This is the year, well, next year is the year to stand up, and I'm not sure what will happen if they have a slow start. We may get another untenable moment here in South Australia. But
so Sydney slip into the 8. They're 7th.
Yep.
Which they were, coming into? Were they in the 8?
Correct. They were in the 8 heading.
Yeah, 7th. So they're in the same spot. So we just see if the Western Bulldogs, if they win tomorrow, subject to, they would then push up potentially to 7th or 8th.
Well, the Dogs have the easiest draw now. So West Coast and Geelong, whose seasons are over. Yep. GWS has Carlton next weekend, who looked at Little Rocky against the Suns today. And Sydney have Melbourne, who are still jostling for position in the top 4. And arguably, actually, if Melbourne lose and Carlton win...
they could go to 4th.
They could go to 4th if Melbourne lose against Hawthorn tomorrow. So
imagine that.
Would that be a rise for Carlton?
Imagine that. Imagine the first round of the finals, Collingwood versus Carlton.
There's still a lot to play out here in terms of the final few teams fighting it out for those few spots in the 8. It's just a matter of who can actually impact it when they get in there. And I truly think even Sydney, GWS and the Western Bulldogs on their day are well and truly competitive. So,
but again, 6 weeks ago, it was like Port Adelaide and Collingwood and daylight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's certainly opened up. I mean, Brisbane look in ripping form as well.
And they play St Kilda.
Yeah. That'll determine top 2 because Port Adelaide, assuming they beat Fremantle tomorrow, have Richmond. So, yeah, that final round is going to be an absolute blockbuster. Very excited for it. Your votes, gents, the ABC Footballer of the Year?
Well...
Put you on the spot here, John?
Yes, you have. I haven't even considered.
Tell you what, I'll give you some time while I run through some of the stats. So, Errol Goulden had 30 touches for the Swans, 2 behinds, 4 clearances, 16 contested possessions. Chad Warner with 25 disposals, 10 contested. He also had a behind. In terms of the goal scorers, Isaac Heaney had 3 for the night alongside 18 touches. Hayden McLean had 2 as well for the Swans, 15 to his name as well in the absence of Joel Amadi. For the Crows, Rory Laird had 31 touches and 8 tackles. Jake Saligo stood up with Jordan Dawson being tagged. He had 28 touches. Dawson kept to just 19. Matt Crouch kept doing what he's been doing over the past month, 26 touches at nearly 80%. And Brodie Smith with 25. Their goal scorers, 2 to Rochelle, who didn't have the greatest of night despite the goals he did kick, and Taylor Walker had 2 as well. So certainly a couple you could pick from, Jammo. There's a handful of players that certainly put their hands up for some votes. Yeah. What did you land on?
Well, I've got 3 and 2 covered. I don't know about 1 just yet at the minute, but let's start it the other way around. You're going to do 1 vote. I'll go to 3 and 2. Well, I thought Errol Goulden's game was outstanding tonight, wasn't it? Too, just his effort, his run, his carry. We spoke about it throughout the night, and as you touched on, 16 contested, 14 ground ball gets, 4 clearances, 8 inside 50. So score involvement's 5. So he gets 3. I thought Nick Blakey in defence, he was flary and he was tough at times, and some of the contests that he actually got to control where he potentially could have given away a free, just read it really well, took it on. So he gets 2. Josh Franco.
Oh, wow.
Hospital handball here. Do the hard yards.
From Adelaide, I like Miller's game.
Yeah.
I actually thought he provided plenty of run-off half-back.
Done.
Are you happy with that?
Yep.
All right, okay. Miller are the one. Done. So Miller are 1, 2 to Blakey, 3 to Goulden. Sydney winners by a point, 11-8, 74 to Adelaide's 10-13, 73. Gents, thank you so much once again for joining us. Big game next weekend for us, Port Adelaide and Richmond, a top 2 spot on the line, you'd think, for the Power. That wraps things up here at the Adelaide Oval. Still to come, plenty tomorrow on Grandstand AFL, all kicking off at midday with Grandstand AFL Sunday with Ben Cameron in the chair, and then a couple of big games coming your way. We'll conclude round 23. We'll see the Western Bulldogs and West Coast at the Docklands, Melbourne and Hawthorn at the MCG, and then Fremantle and Port Adelaide to close things out at Perth Stadium. Sydney winners by a point, 11-8, 74 to 10-13, 73. They're in the hunt for finals. Adelaide's season is over. Enjoy your night. Here's the highlights.
Keane dropped it. Heaney picked it up. Hand passed out quickly. And Wicks with a snap. And it's just inside the goalpost. Sydney get the lead back. Nice snap from Wicks. Foot to the ball from McDonald. Got it down to half forward for the Swans. It's inside 50 now. Ball on the ground again. Hayward, clean hands. Picked it up. Slid the ball under the arms. And straight through for a goal.
Free kick for Sydney. Straight in front. 45 out. Chance to make it 3 goals. Rowbottom will hand it off. Loading up, Campbell from 50, massive kick. Excellent finish. Campbell's on the board. The Norwood product sends it into the arc, off hands, Papley, swarms, tumbles it towards goal. Excellent finish. Tom Papley, ever the opportunist.
Michael Annie was a short pass and then inboard he went to Crouch. Straight away, hand past the hinge. Long kick inside 50. Flying across was Blake. He punched it towards the boundary line. Oh, somehow Rankin picked it up and snapped it off the outside of the right foot. Brilliant goal from Rankin. Surely that can lift the Crows.
O'Brien sends it into the arc for Adelaide, through the hands of Fogarty. At the back, Blakey wrestling with Rankin. Murphy comes in with the assist as well. Swarms, gathers, shrugs a couple, snaps in the scoreboard pocket. Superb!
Taken away in a tackle, holding the man, said the umpire. The offender that time, Cunningham. I think on 2 occasions Petal had a grip on the ball and then lost it. Now his hand passed it off. Miller are running through from 48. Adelaide has a heartbeat. Great finish from Miller. Long kick by McAdam. Sydney have their wicket keeper back there. Rosselli does well. Slides through the goal. How did he do that? There was 2 on 1 and Josh Rosselli has taken it off the pack and just slid it through from 10 metres. 2 for Rosselli.
Ben Keys, 30 out, opens the angle, snaps on the left. He's the hit!
Oh no!
Point, hit the post.
Go! Look at this.
Ben Keys is saluting with the front row, but Sydney have the ball. It's hit the post. Sydney hang on. Too little, too late for Adelaide. This season ends with an emphatic victory on the road for the Swans. Sydney in the box seat for finals with a 1-point win in a thriller.